on that.
Sam is running for president, so he will be leaving
Well, I mean, I want to, I mean, you don't know this, Trill. So Trill is obviously back. I did not sit on my laurels, though, while Trill was out. I went out and I pounded the pavement. And I am happy to announce that we have some new sponsors.
Oh, let's go.
That I was able to get. So you guys, now look, you might know website Predictit because of our friend Sean McElwee as the political betting website where things fell apart for him. He got caught betting on races that he was supporting, helping with. But, they've totally turned it around. Predictit is one of the best ways to bet on politics. And let me tell you, tonight, Joe Biden is going to be giving a speech. And a lot of people are saying he's going to drop out. They're going to announce Kamala Harris. They're going to do all of this. So this has nothing to do with the sponsorship. It's kind of like how Shams and Woj, ESPN Bet, FanDuel, that's obviously very separate from the reporting. But I'm just telling you, I'm going to give you guys a little inside info. Joe Biden's staying in the race, and he will be the candidate in 2024. That is guarantee, and you can bet on that right now. That's like free money.
Yeah.
So if you just run right now to predictit.com, that Joe Biden will be president in 2024. That is solid. That's solid bet.
It's a lock.
Going off. I hear Trump is very, very senile, much more so. It's gotten really bad in the last few days. Again, this has nothing to do with our new sponsorship. This is just things that I've found out as a reporter. Okay, so, so just go ahead, go do that. Real quick,
I haven't really been
responsible for any of this. But you just go do it.
I obviously haven't been in the loop, but I'm so glad to see that you've made so much good use out of this time that we've been away. I had people giving me shit about not podcasting or streaming, and I was like, guys, it's been 5 days.
yeah, right. See, we did one Saturday.
I was like, we have streamed and podcast 100 times in the last week.
I'm pretty sure last week we did a 10 hours.
At least, yeah. I was gonna say at this point, if you haven't signed up for the Patreon yet, you're missing out on a ton of good shit because we posted so much content on there the last 3 weeks. But we're back now. Biden boys, Bartlestein boys. We're killing it. As you were doing that plug for our new sponsor at the top of the episode, we did get breaking news that Kyle Lowry is returning to the Philadelphia 76ers. Whoa. Deal done for my friend of the show, Mark Bartlestein of Priority Sports.
Let's go! Woo!
Huge day here.
Fucking go! Bartlestein boys, never down, never out.
It's a Bartlestein boy summer.
Now, let me ask you something. Is Lowry their best rebounder now? Genuine question. I think he might be
Andre Drummond.
4. Yeah, I was gonna say
of the guys that could play with Embiid. Well, I don't even remember how many rebounds he had with us. Keep in mind, Kyle Lowry. People were giving me shit because I'm not pumped about the idea of Lowry coming back, and it's nothing against Lowry. I still think that he's a good playable player in the regular season, and the Sixers need guys who can do this team is very talented, but also very bozo.
Yes.
It is filled with guys that are great scorers, guys that can handle the ball, guys that can create for themselves, but they do lack that connecting piece, and losing Batum was huge in that regard. And I think Lowry coming back is a good thing for the fact that they just need smart players that can make, connective passes and do all the little bullshit Kyle Lowry stuff that he does.
I'm not even trying to shit on the Sixers. I genuinely think it's good to get a guy who can box out.
Yeah.
even if he's small, he can still box out and understands how to play. So
yeah,
I think that's, I think that's good to get him back. I think it's probably bad if he's in the rotation in the playoffs, but
I don't know if he can play in the playoffs. It's so hard for him to score inside.
Yeah.
That I would be surprised that if he's playing anything more than Joel goes to the bench and Lowry comes in for 5 minutes and we just need someone who can bring the ball up the court, basically. I don't really see much more of a role for him in the playoffs. In the regular season, I think he could be a solid backup point guard, play 20 minutes a game. My whole thing was I was just hoping that we would kind of explore a route that might have a little bit more playoff upside. Like, look, campaign's going to be terrible, a handful of games. He also legitimately won us a playoff game this year in a way that I just don't think Lowry has that capacity. He's more of a steady hand than he is of a, random 30-point game that will swing a game or a series. And it's fine. I mean, look, they're not going to rely a ton on him. Hopefully they can ease Jared McCain in as a backup ball handler off the bench. He's been pretty good in summer league so far. And at a minimum, Lowry's a Philly guy. He's good for the vibes. And the only thing I'm worried about is really just Nurse trusting him too much, because coaches have their guys that they're like, oh, I know they're not going to fuck this up. And like, I know Lowry has been that guy. He won a championship with Nurse. He's made all-star games under Nurse, all NBA, all that shit. But this is not the same Kyle Lowry. Like, he's 38 years old. He'll be 39 next playoffs. And at a certain point, you do have to just adjust your expectations a little bit for who they are as a player. So I just think it's a fine regular season signing, veterans minimum, I'm sure. I mean, we literally can't offer anything else. So I mean, worst case scenario, if he falls out of the rotation and once out, we can trade him at the deadline. And it's just not. It's not something I'm going to get too worked up over. No,
I think it's a good. I mean, push comes to shove, minimum guys, you just waive them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. So it's fine.
Yeah. And I think that they wanted to bring back, Joel keeps talking about continuity and how all these teams that win titles together always have like at least a core 3 or 4 guys, and they kind of tend to bring the same guys back and not make like 5 different, they don't reset the team every year. And that's what the Sixers have done for so long, that I think that Lowry's probably one of the guys that Joel likes. He's probably someone that he trusts, and he's probably someone that he knows will be able to contribute in some capacity.
I think it's really important. Like, if you have guys on like a championship team, like championship caliber team, what you're talking about with the continuity, I think what's like underrated there is kind of like the level of understanding. And like, you're not going to see those guys like snipe at each other, like in the media, or do anything like that. You're not going to see these guys that have won championships together, like throw dirt at their teammate, like if they're picked over them for something. Like, that's like not something that's going to happen with a finals MVP or someone who's like played great defense. For a
also just on a completely unrelated note, solidarity with Jaylen Brown, critical support from Philadelphia 76ers fans. I can't believe that Nike would do this to you. I can't believe that Jordan brand, keep in mind Jordan brand, would do this to you. Keep in mind who's signed to Jordan brand. Anyway, we will blow up the Boston Celtics from the outside.
I think
let's go. This is the best thing that's ever happened.
Jokes on you. We as fans spent all last year saying he doesn't deserve this money. This sucks. We've ruined the team. We've got to trade him to the Hawks before everyone figures out that this is a Mickey Mouse fraud contract. He plays well angry. Like, he can't, like, you know what I'm saying? This is perfect, actually.
Yeah, he's
got one more thing to prove. So
yeah, he's definitely calling his landlord right now and asking him to raise the rent. Unfortunately, that's he likes what he has. He thrives off the doubters.
And Jason Tatum will come back with even stronger, bigger shoulders, and will shoot 18% from 3 next year. It's like, I foresee it. Tatum is turning into Giannis, like, very slowly, like both in a good way and a bad way. So let's I'm just keep an eye on it. Is all I'm saying. I don't know how we got on this subject. I mean, who would have brought this up? But
unbelievable. We will take down the Boston Celtics in one way or another. Sam is helping me, guys. For all the Celtics fans in the comments who are mad at him. So let's get into what we wanted to talk about today. And since we just talked about the Sixers, let's start with, we're going to do ranking the offseason, grading every team. We'll do a tier ranking for every team. I was going to say every team that made moves, but I think we could do every team, even the teams that stayed a bit more neutral, maybe just lost some guys or did vet minimum signings, maybe some draft picks, because I want to go into this stream kind of having the mindset of, and this exercise of, if this is not where I think they will be in the hierarchy of the league next year. For example, like if I hated the Milwaukee Bucks offseason, for example, it doesn't mean I don't think that they could be a contender next year. Now, I don't think they could be a contender next year.
It does. Actually, it does for me. So,
no, like honestly though, like we'll get to the Bucks eventually and the minimum moves that they could do, because they literally can only make minimum moves.
Sorry, I'm getting a call from a Nathan Marzion. Hold on. He wants to. Okay. All right. He wants me to say on the podcast that actually they didn't trade Drew Holiday.
Oh.
They didn't trade Drew Holiday to anyone. So they didn't have control over that. He just wanted me to repeat that for the podcast.
Shit.
So, yeah.
It's good to know.
It was a very quick phone call. I don't know how he got my number. It's so weird.
Thank you, Nathan. Huge fan of the show. He's always DMing me, telling me how much he likes the show. Yeah. So, really cool that we could get a Twitter celebrity to call in like that. But
you gotta get him on the pod. I'll invite him next time he calls.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
So we'll pull up the tier ranker right now on here, and great, we're getting all these ads. Thank you, tier ranker. And we will so we'll go through and we will rate every team based on the transactions that they made this offseason. Kind of where they're at in their team building cycle will be part of this. Also, obviously, if they made trades that we didn't like, we can go over all that, and then we'll discuss their draft picks as well. So let's start off with the Sixers, because I think we've already talked a lot about the Sixers. We did the Paul George episode last week. We did the Caleb Martin Patreon episode a few days ago. Obviously, they just signed Kyle Lowry, brought him back. They basically had to rebuild the whole team. So just to catch you up on what the Sixers have actually done this offseason, they selected Jared McCain and Adem Bona in the draft. They also signed Justin Edwards to a 2-way contract. They waived Paul Reed, RIP B-Ball Paul. They signed Paul George to a contract, a max 4-year contract. They signed Caleb Martin to a contract that is like a scam, and he probably will be firing his agent for it in a month. They also signed Tyrese Maxey to a max contract. They brought back Kelly Oubre for the room exception for 2 years, $7.5 million a year with the second-year player option. They signed Andre Drummond to a contract, and they also signed Eric Gordon to a veterans minimum contract. So, I mean, I feel like we've talked a lot about the Sixers, obviously.
I'll say it so you don't get called a homer. I think it's an S.
I mean, my thing is for what we thought coming into the offseason, what I thought a year ago, I can't imagine that they could be in a better position than they are right now.
Yeah.
They added an all-star 2-way forward talent in Paul George. They brought back honestly, everything went about. They got a good backup for Joel Embiid for the regular season to keep him fresh for the playoffs. They maxed Maxey. They got Caleb Martin on a scam deal. And they got Kelly Oubre below market value, even if I think Nick Batum would be a little. If you had asked me if we got Caleb Martin, I would have preferred to bring back Nick Batum, but that seems like it was very out of their hands. But having said all that, they didn't spend any draft capital except for the picks that they had in the draft. I like their draft overall, and all of their moves that they made were great. So yeah, this is an S. Like this is at a minimum an A. I would say, in terms of where they were at before, I think they made the team much better. They still have the ability to make the team better in the future as well. So right now, for where they're at, home run offseason from Daryl Morey in the front office, home run offseason for the cap space plan, because I thought this was going to go terribly. And this is, they had a great offseason. They've won off seasons before, and The regular season hasn't turned out to be that great, but just from where we're at right now on July 11th, not many teams have better off seasons than the Sixers.
Also, like the fact that they had the cap space, and you think about like they got a pretty staggering amount of the free agents that mattered too.
Yeah.
Like on top of like Paul George, you got Andre Drummond, you brought Kelly Oubre back. Like
Caleb Martin, I think, is one of like the 6 or 7 best free agents that changed teams this summer.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like they didn't get DeMar DeRozan, but like that's pretty. Like, I'm trying to think of who else changed teams that would be more.
I think. Yeah. I think Clay's washed. So I would put. Yeah. Look. Can Clay have a bounce back season and prove me wrong? Absolutely. We'll get to the Mavericks as well, but I think in terms of the top tier guys that change teams were Paul George, DeMar DeRozan, and then a little bit below that you have your Isaiah Hartensteins. The better ones that we'll get to later as well, like we're in this kind of wing category of, probably just below KCP, which is the Derek Jones Jr., Najee Marshall, Caleb Martin group of wings. So that's like all one tier to me, basically. And I think they got one of those guys. They got the best free agent to change teams in Paul George. And they also added, most of their core back from last year. And also removed Tobias Harris from the team.
Yeah.
Did you see the shots that he was taking at the fans in his Instagram goodbye?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Respect. So passive. I mean, look. He dealt with a lot of shit for the years he's here. He can say whatever the fuck he wants. I don't care.
Yeah.
If I were him, I would just not have an online presence. I'm like, I made $100. You just made another $50 million. You are going to finish your career never having made an all-star team, and you make $300 million.
Yeah, no, he's
Love
like
off.
he's the Phineas and Ferb meme where what do I get paid? Like, that's him. That's Tobias. So good for him. Great for him. Yeah, I just think that on itself, honestly, it's probably S tier to just swapping in Paul George, Tobias Harris for Paul George is probably gets you S tier right off the bat.
And the only loss is really Nick Batum, and they couldn't do anything about that. Like, I think that Batum was really important for this team, and I think they'll miss him. I do think eventually he is replaceable. It's going to be hard to find that archetype of player, but at the deadline, hopefully they can kind of resolve some of that, and I think they solved a lot of their other issues. Also, just quick summer league thoughts based on the first few games. Adem Bona is one of the most fun players I've ever seen play in summer league. He's awesome. Jared McCain started off really hot. Jared McCain's a really good ball handler and passer. He didn't really get a chance to show that off at Duke, but I was really impressed with his playmaking ability. And the shooting from him was up and down in summer league, but I know that's going to come along pretty nicely. I think he's going to be pretty good. Like, I'm trying to temper my expectations a little bit. He petered off a little bit the last few games of summer league in Utah before they get into Vegas. But I think both of those guys are going to have a shot at making the rotation this year. And Ricky Council, 2 of the 3 games he played in summer league, he was probably the best player in all of Utah summer league, except for maybe Keontae George. So Ricky Council, he's a guy. He's 100%. I would be shocked if he didn't crack their rotation this upcoming season. He's just a ball of energy. He can shoot the shit out of the ball now, apparently. And outside of some handle and decision-making issues, he can jump out the gym. I was very impressed with him in summer league. So it couldn't have gone much better for the Sixers so far this summer. We'll see what they'll do in Vegas summer league coming up here. So, all right, let's get into the next team, which I want to do the Sacramento Kings because we didn't really get a chance to talk about DeMar DeRozan all that much. You hopped off the other day before we were able to talk about what they did this offseason. Obviously, that was their big move. It's a move that what did you think of the DeMar move? Because I'm
still wrapping my head around it, honestly.
I kind of I've been spending all week just like trying to think about it, and I'm still kind of split.
I don't really know. I mean, like, I got to remind myself they got Malik Monk back.
So they brought Malik Monk back on, I think, is a good contract. I mean, I think he could have got more on the open market. He's making like $17 to $20 million per year over the next 4 years, has a team option on the last year. And then they signed DeMar, they drafted Devin Carter, they brought back Alex Len, and they signed Jordan McLaughlin.
Signed Alex Len, huh? I might dock him a tier just for that. What's their projected starting lineup? It's what? Fox, DeMar, Keegan, Monk, Sabonis?
I think my guess is that they'll probably start. I know Monk wants to start, but I think that just because they have so much offense now, that I think that you have to start Keon Ellis. I think you put Keon Ellis at. Okay. I think you go Fox, Keon Ellis in the backcourt.
Okay. Yep.
And then you go Keegan, DeMar on the wings.
Yeah.
And then you go Sabonis at the 5, obviously.
Yeah.
Monk off the bench. My hunch here, I think this might be a little bit of an incomplete, because my hunch is that they try to trade Herder with a pick. Because keep in mind, they didn't really give up any actual first-round picks for DeMar. They gave up a swap that's far out for DeMar. They sent out Harrison Barnes, who was absolutely terrible last season. Looked like he kind of fell off physically, was already kind of trending in that direction. So essentially what this move is you're basically replacing Harrison Barnes with DeMar DeRozan, and then we'll see what they do with Kevin Huerter. But Kevin Huerter, I would imagine, because they're so guard heavy now with all of those guys, that they'll probably move him for a Dorian Finney-Smith, Kyle Kuzma, maybe even Cam Johnson at some point, depending on what direction that they go in. But the amount that they gave up for DeMar is, the swap was very far out, so that always has potential to be a disaster. The funny thing is, the last time the Kings lost a swap was to the Sixers in 2017, and that actually ended up working out better for the Kings than it did for the Sixers. They got Fox at 5, the Sixers moved up to 1 to get Fultz, and that was a disaster. But on the whole, the swap stuff is like, you're swapping with the Spurs when Victor Wembanyama is theoretically at his prime, and that was the cost of getting off the Harrison Barnes contract, which you just signed last offseason. And when they signed it, we were like, okay, like it was just so like, I guess
that's the classic.
We didn't like their offseason last offseason
because
we thought they didn't do enough.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, that's where teams get themselves killed, is stuff like that. Things like giving. It's not, giving Malik Monk $5 million too much. I know they didn't. I'm just using it as an example. It's not giving good players a little bit too much money. It's giving guys that suck contracts.
Yeah.
It's
and like, to be clear, Barnes wasn't terrible for them. Like, he actually had a few good seasons for them, but it was obvious that he was aging. He was on the wrong side of 30. And also that, like, I don't know. I just remember them signing when he signed it. We were like, okay, this is whatever. And now they have to pay to get off of it. Like, I guess one of the things is, like, you don't want to lose the guy for nothing, but it's just a hard like thing to figure out, I guess.
But it's like, okay, you don't want to lose Paul George for nothing. Who cares about losing Harrison Barnes for nothing?
Yeah.
Like, Harrison Barnes, like, maxed out as a starter in the NBA. Like, that was his absolute ceiling. And he's been just I don't want to say replacement level, but he's been like a rotation caliber forward for like
3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Like, so it was a bad piece of business. So, he was clearly old. You don't want to be making big investments in multi-year things in aging forwards who are over 30. So anyway, I like the DeMar DeRozan move.
Well, the only thing I will say is that Ben Taylor just did a podcast on, like, the importance of two-way forwards.
Yeah.
And I guess that was the idea behind Harrison Barnes, was that he was just good enough on both sides of the court, and they were a team that had no forward depth. Like, they literally only had Trey Lyles and Keegan Murray. That was it. Mm-hmm. So if they have just those two, they didn't want to lose Harrison Barnes for nothing, because then they don't have any forwards on the rest of the roster. And now at least you're in a situation where, look, it sucks to have to give up that swap really far out, because it could potentially, but like, it's so far away right now that I really don't think that it's that big a deal. The only thing is like, my gut tells me I don't get the DeMar move at all. Like I just to me it's just like it's an upgrade over Harrison Barnes because DeMar DeRozan's just way better than Harrison Barnes is now. Like it's just even with all of the construction issues that you have around Sabonis and DeMar and whatever, it's like I think you can make it work, right?
Yeah.
The argument that people have been making that are pro DeMar have basically been saying, with Sabonis, you're probably going to cap your defensive ceiling anyway, unless you could acquire a 4 that's like OG Anunoby or someone that is like a incredibly rare archetype of 4 that's like, oh, I can protect the rim, I can switch, I can rebound, I can shoot threes. And they were never able to acquire that player. They tried many times, and they tried to get OG, they tried to get guys like that, and they were just never able to acquire a player that fit that mold with Sabonis. And if that's the case, maybe going in the other direction and kind of doing what they did 2 years ago, which is all offense at all times, then at least you have so many different creators. You have so many different ways that you can attack a defense that you could probably be like last year. Their offense fell off a little bit because Fox and Herter and Monk missed some time and they were just not quite the same. They weren't able to capture the magic that they did 2 years ago. Maybe this is an attempt to recapture that magic and just have so many different guys that you can run offense through and so many different ways that you could just be dynamic on offense. And your defense is going to suffer, but like your defense was never going to be good anyway.
Yeah. I it's so hard for me to like get rid of my rings pilled brain because I despise this move from like a playoff perspective. Like they're going to be dead on arrival.
I don't really care about that for the
that's
the Kings, though.
That's the thing is it's like I don't think they care about that. I don't think like.
Does this make them a better regular season team? That's the question for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does. Just the base, just look because it's pretty much the same team with just Harrison Barnes, like DeMar DeRozan swapped out for Harrison Barnes, which I think is better. Like, it's a weirder fit. It's they're going to be more dependent on offense, and that's the thing is I don't like the fit issue very much, but like I don't know, DeMar's. Yeah, it's talent upgrade. And like, DeMar's kind of impressed me with, he's been able to make himself kind of malleable in the past, like, because he does have some facilitating to his game. Like he's a pretty decent passer. Like he does kind of space the floor as like a long 2.
Well, that's the thing is that he's the rare 3-point shooter who still gets attention from defenses because you can't leave him alone because he's so good at getting downhill and getting to his spots.
Yeah.
So like teams, if you watch the Bulls, teams weren't like, this is not a Ben Simmons situation. This is not even like a Derek Jones Jr. in the final situation. Like teams respect DeMar to the point where you can at least like, you can dig, you can help off, but they're not going to camp in the lane in the same way if DeMar's on the perimeter. The DeMar Sabonis Fox fit is very confusing to me is the whole thing. I know Fox has become a better 3-point shooter. He actually had a really good 3-point shooting season this year. What?
Sorry, I just realized that. Didn't they draft Devin Carter?
He's out for 6 to 8 months though. He had shoulder surgery.
Oh,
so he's going to miss.
I thought it was like. Yeah. I thought he was only going to miss like the first month of the season. It's like
so here's the thing:
half the season, huh? Yeah,
obviously, I was extremely high on Devin Carter. I had him number 1 on my board. I do just want to point out here, he said afterwards that he actually played through that injury in college, that he suffered this injury months ago. So the fact that he was as good as he was and playing through that shoulder injury makes me feel even better about his potential in the NBA.
Well, that's what I was because I was thinking through. I was like, I just that the Kings need a little bit of pop, like in the draft. Like, who did they draft this year? And I was thinking about it. I was like, oh fuck, like Devin Carter could end up being a lot of what they need. I get that there's like maybe a little bit of positional overlap with Fox, but not really. I don't think I think especially if it was a shoulder injury, like the shooting wise too, like you never know. With like 3-point shooting, we talked about what that's going to be. So I forgot they got Devin Carter. I mean, it sucks that he's injured, but getting Devin Carter at 13. I really like.
Well, here's the thing: is like they have a weird thing where they're going to have a lot of defense coming from their guard spots with him and Keon Ellis.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a lot of creation and offense coming from their forward and big spots with DeMar, Keegan, and Sabonis. So I do wonder how much Keegan Murray suffers from this, to be honest. Yeah. That is the one thing that I'm a little bit worried about. Maybe they realize, hey, maybe Keegan's better off being in a lower usage role. And he's fine buying into being like, their version of Clay, essentially.
Yeah, that's what I think he did. I agree with that. I think that probably is like, I don't think he's gonna scale up with higher usage. Like, I don't think he's ever gonna be like a
So I think it's. You want to give it a B?
I was leaning C, but
I'm not opposed to C.
Yeah, let's make their team better.
I think a B's
fine. Let's leave them B for now.
They didn't trade any picks, really. They traded one swap. I thought they nailed the draft. They made a talent upgrade, and they still have an opportunity to make the team better. So they still have all of their picks now because they owe the Hawks a pick next year because of the Kevin Huerter trade that didn't convey this year. But still, they have the majority of their picks. Like, I think that they can get better. I think B's fine.
B's fine.
The downside is not that crazy. I think that they'll be back in the play-in, but the West that's not a product of the Kings not being better. That's a product of the West just being fucking insane next year, I think. So
that's like, especially at their tier,
Okay. So also I did forget the Sasa Vezenkov and Davion Mitchell for Jalen McDaniels trade that happened. Just a very pointless move that happened that there's really nothing to discuss there. But so do you want to go with the Knicks, Mavericks, or
I thought we were going to do the Hawks, or we're not. No.
We can do the Hawks. Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, because that was one I was trying to think. That was one I was trying to think about.
Okay,
because there's obviously one bit of business with the Hawks that is very important. Well, outside of having the number one draft pick, I mean, is the Murray
Vic
trade.
Krejci.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's not what you were saying?
No.
2 year,
I believe in Krejci. I have Krejci magic.
I was just talking about, someone sent me that message and goes, is this a bit? I've literally never heard of this person. And I was like, you need to respect Vic Krejci immediately. YKB legend Vic Krejci. But anyway. So yeah, the DeJounte Murray trade. Let's start with that because we didn't love them drafting Richeche number 1 overall. We kind of have been. I think you had him. I had him 9th on my board.
I had him 7.
Had him 7.
Yeah.
That's the range that I think he should have went in this draft. Maybe a little bit higher than that, but we could go all day on that. I think he's a rotation wing. I think it's not a good use of a number 1 overall pick, but
he might be a starter. But I think there were starters on the board that had more upside. I'll just say that.
Yes.
So,
yeah. So yeah, not a huge fan of that pick in general. But it's not the worst thing. They could have done
needed
worse,
shooting.
They
needed shooting. So you better hope this guy can shoot. That's the other thing is how Mickey Mouse was his numbers, but he didn't play a shitload of games though. He did have those shooting splits over a genuine 80 game sample size or whatever it was. So I'm
fairly certain he can shoot. That's not one part of his game that I'm worried about. I wonder how much else he can do in terms of what does his rebounding look like? What does his defense actually translate into the NBA?
Yeah.
All those things. And I think that honestly, I think his ceiling is like Harrison Barnes. That's real. That's the kind of player I think he'll be in the NBA. Yeah. But it's not an exciting use of a number 1 overall pick, but he'll probably be a guy. So other than that, we have, it was really just they made a few moves this offseason in terms of they let Sadiq Bey walk. He signed with the Wizards. Okay. But the majority of their moves were the DeJounte Murray trade, which ended up the final trade there was they received Cody Zeller, Larry Nance Jr., EJ Liddell, Dyson Daniels, and then 2 first-round picks. One that was actually a legit first-round pick from the Pelicans, and then one that was like the lesser of two, I believe. But the teams that they were picking from, it actually was not. It like the compensation was like actually kind of legit draft compensation, is what I'm getting at here.
Yeah,
it was not like, I think one of them was a Lakers pick, if I remember correctly. Hold on, let's pull up the details, because I feel like that's an important part.
That's what I've been trying to find that, to be honest, and it's like kind of hard to find exactly what the
because I liked the draft compensation. I remember when I saw that, because it was one of those deals where I thought that they wouldn't try to bury the what the picks were, because they actually turned out to be pretty decent picks from the Hawks. But anyway, I thought the picks were good. Unprotected Lakers in 2025 and worst of Pelicans and Bucks picks in 2027, which I think the Lakers one has real potential to be in the lottery. And then I think the 2027 one, a few years from now, I don't think the Pelicans and Bucks are set up to be like dominant teams. So that could be a decent pick too. So I actually really like the draft capital that they got back for DeJounte.
It was 2025 first round pick and a conditional, the top 4 protected selection, which is the least favorite of the least favorable of the Pelicans in Milwaukee.
So top 4 protected, okay, but you're gonna get one because it's the least favorable. So,
and I think 2027, the Bucks might be dead by then.
I think that 2020. We'll get to the Lakers at some point here. Yeah. I love the idea of getting a 2025 Lakers pick.
Yeah.
I think the Lakers are going to suck next year.
I agree.
So I actually, if they don't make any other moves and this is what their team looks like going into the season, sign me up for that if I'm them. Obviously the Hawks, I do just want to caveat this with, as someone who didn't hate the original DeJounte Murray trade, because the whole time it was, everyone kept saying, oh, they gave up 3 first-round picks for DeJounte Murray. They gave up 4 first-round picks for DeJounte Murray. And I remember at the time being like, actually, one of those picks is kind of Mickey. It turns into seconds because it's a Charlotte Hornets pick. And then the other picks, I was like, the other picks are fine to give up because the Hawks will probably be a playoff team. Well, 2 years later, they're already trading off DeJounte Murray, and they're probably not going to be a playoff team next year. So the Spurs actually fucking kicked their ass in that deal. But I just want to say, considering where they were at sunk cost fallacy at this point. You can't worry about what you gave up for DeJounte Murray. It didn't work. It was never going to work. Him and Trey clearly don't get along. And it was just, they don't work together on the court. You got to move on. And I think considering, like, I'm still split on where I'm at with Dyson Daniels as a prospect, to be honest with you. I don't really trust, I don't trust these like defensive tilted guards / wings that haven't really shown much on offense. But if there is somewhere that he's going to go and thrive, I feel like playing off Trae Young is a good spot to go to.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of where I came down on it, because like I've kind of cooled on Dyson Daniels. I really liked him coming out. I thought it was an awesome pick. And he's just kind of been a little underwhelming to me. You know, I think he can still figure it out. He's still insanely young, right? Like he's 20.
I think he's 21.
Okay.
But he's still very young, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, you get Dyson Daniels in there, like, around this team. I think the big thing is,
Dyson Daniels would have still, I think he, just to be clear here, I think he still would have won in the lottery of this draft, based on the fact of how young he still is and the fact that this draft kind of sucked.
Yeah. I'm just, my thing when going back to the Hawks and, like, kind of trying to put a draft grade on this, it's hard for me to not give the Hawks credit based on expectations, because I really felt like they were going to fuck this up and trade Trae Young for like not that much. And the fact that they traded, I think, the correct guy in DeJounte Murray, got a pretty good return for him, and kept Trae Young is like, that's a successful offseason to me, to be like totally honest. I know it's like not very
And they got real value for DeJounte too. A guy that I think is a good player, but I didn't expect to get this much back at this point of his career.
And, you know, I don't think, like, I know people are kind of rolled out. I think Larry Nance, I know he's old, but, like, I think Larry Nance is, like, still a player. Like, I think he gives them, like, a kind of a fun look for, like, going small if they need to. I don't think he's just a throw-in. Like, I think they can actually use him next year. So
the good thing with the Hawks got they got a little bit more dynamic and they got a little bit more athletic. Like this frees up Jalen Johnson to become the number 2 option now, who I think is just going to be a better player than DeJounte Murray pretty quickly, to be honest with you. I think within the next 3 years, he'll just be a better NBA player than DeJounte Murray. So that's also a little added bonus, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then you have the fact that, like, you know, they add in Richeche, they take a flyer on Dyson Daniels, and they get picks back. I mean, look, for next year, I still think this team's going to be in the play-in again.
Yeah, probably.
For the 4th year in a row, they'll be in the play-in. But I also don't think that you can judge them based on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking about putting them like 6, maybe, but we'll see.
That's insane. You need to stop with the Hawks.
I'm thinking about it. I'm just,
No, you're not. No, you're not allowed to do it. There's too many good teams in the East now.
What you don't think they're better? Would you fall off your gourd if I told you that they were better than the Bucks next year? The Hawks were better than the Bucks next year. Would you? There's no way that happened.
I would still be surprised.
I think it's possible.
The Bucks have Giannis. Like,
they have Giannis. But listen to this though. The Hawks have Trae Young without DeJounte Murray.
That I actually think this is an addition by subtraction trade in that regard. But also, the one thing I will say, and I think this is a little bit overlooked, Trae and DeJounte were both bad together and good apart. Like, if you look at the net ratings and their numbers when one of them sat, it was hilarious to see how good, things kind of looked. But I do just want to point out, Trae missed some time last year, and DeJounte had to keep them afloat during that. If Trae goes down for 2-3 weeks, this team's going to be ass. They're going to be fucking terrible.
That's true.
And like that's the thing is, like, I even think the Bucks, if Giannis went out for 3 weeks, they could stay afloat with Dame scaling up to the 1 spot, Middleton being in the 2nd spot, and like they just have more talent. Like, and even if they're old, I think they do.
I don't know. Jaylen Johnson. I don't know. Like,
I like Jaylen Johnson a lot. Yeah,
Chris Middleton was good last year. He was really good. How much longer is that going to keep going? We are officially, in my mind, on Chris Middleton might be cooked at any point in time. Watch is just something. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
What my argument here is, though, is first off, I would be more worried about Brook Lopez than I would be about Chris Middleton.
Same. Yeah. Sure.
Brook Lopez is like 37.
Yes.
But I just want to point out the fact that, like, if we're talking about scaling up, we saw Middleton scale up in the playoffs. We saw Dame scale up in the playoffs. The Hawks just have no way to lose their best player and survive that in a way that I think that the Bucks could. And I think that you have to factor all these things in. Like, the Sixers have, like, if Embiid goes down next season, I think that they'll be a decent team with Paul George and Maxey still. Like, I still think that they'll be like an above 500 team with those 2 guys. Whereas, like, the Hawks, like, if Jaylen Johnson's the number 1 guy, they're fucked.
I've received a call from Chef Gordon Ramsay. He says let Bogdan cook. Let Bogdan cook.
Look, I'm a huge supporter of Bogdan. I love Bogdan. But also, Bogdan's kind of in the same thing. Like, he misses a lot of time.
That's true.
He is,
also, quietly getting older. I think he's 30.
He is. He's 32, I think.
Yeah.
Because he came over when he was like 26, I think.
Yeah.
So we always forget that he was, But look, all right, overall, I kind of want to give the Hawks an A. I'm not going to lie.
I was thinking B, so I'm glad you are pushing me towards A. I was thinking B. Just the Richeche pick, they could have handled that better.
Let's put him in B then.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like they did really well on the other stuff. Like, I think it's bad process overall to send out those picks and then flip off it with the Murray thing. Like, I don't know. But, we're just drafting them on this offseason, and they did okay this offseason. Like,
yeah,
I would have preferred if they traded back. So found a way to trade back, because I think they probably could have.
Yeah, I mean, or they could have just taken Zach Edey like they should have. So
it's 45 minutes in, Piss, by the way.
45 minutes in, we have covered 3 teams. So we're doing
one team every 15 minutes. This is perfect.
There you go. Um,
8.5 hour.
well,
day.
luckily some of these teams didn't make any moves, so we'll be able to go over them very quickly.
Trill and I aren't going to bed tonight. We're going till 2 a.m.
Hey, look, we took 5 days off. We could do this.
Yeah, we can power through. Yep.
All right, so let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks next.
Okay.
Because they made a lot of they made a lot of a toothpick changes everything moves.
Yes, that's a guy. I was gonna say rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, but I like yours better. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to be clear. Let me be clear.
Okay.
I think the Mavericks got better. I don't know how much better though.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
If you just look at the simple upgrades that they made. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Tim Hardaway, Klay Thompson is washed, and he's still better than Tim Hardaway.
That's true. Yeah.
That's an upgrade. Okay. If you look at the Derek Jones Jr. to Najee Marshall, it's a little bit more of a lateral thing to me because I think that Derek Jones Jr. in the context of the Mavericks was really good because he has that vertical spacing ability.
Yeah.
In a way that Najee just doesn't. And I actually think if I would prefer Najee on 20 of 30 teams in the NBA, maybe 25. Yeah. But if you have a creator like Luka that can set him up, like if you have a Jokic, Luka, Trey, Harden style guy that can just really take advantage of a lob threat like Derek Jones, then I think that it maximizes his potential on offense and he's a really good defender. I like Najee as more of like a Swiss Army knife style wing. He also shot a little bit above his head this year. Is that real? Well, at a minimum, it's going to be better than Derek Jones, who just cannot shoot. Like, I know that he shot well this year for the Mavericks, and I know that he had some stretches where he was a really nice shooter. At a certain point, like, teams just stopped respecting the shot, and it totally sunk him in the finals. And for a team that has finals aspirations, I do think Najee Marshall, if you believe in the shooting, might make a little bit more sense on this team. Now, Josh Green, I like Josh Green more than Quentin Grimes, but Josh Green hasn't proven anything. And I think that it's possible that he goes and he thrives at another team. It was very light. It's kind of similar to the Quickly move. It's just a much worse version of it because he's not as good at Quickly. Yeah. But like,
he was better than Quickly in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get to Quickly.
Okay.
The thing with Josh Green is that he is never going to be maximized at a Luka Doncic team.
Yeah, sure. Fact.
And it's the same thing with Quickly and Brunson. Like, you're not going to pay Quickly if you have Brunson. Now I get that. I didn't get it at the time. Now I understand it. So I kind of see Quentin Grimes, if he can get back to being a normal player, as a better fit for what they need. They wanted to go get Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Quentin Grimes is not Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but he's probably, when he was decent, he was like 75% of Kentavious Caldwell-Pope.
Yeah.
So I actually think they did get better on the whole. I just don't know. And they didn't really have much to give up.
That's the thing, yeah.
And they didn't really give anything up. Like, they gave up second-round picks.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
Their run was, their run was a little Mickey Mouse. Like,
yeah, I mean, look,
it was a little Mickey Mouse. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the Celtics also Mickey Mouse. Like, we had a pretty Mickey Mouse run last year in a lot of ways. You know, like, you play who's in front of you. But like, if you told me, wow, the Mavericks lost in round 1 this year, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, the finals team lost in round 1. Like, it just, there's a lot of rock, paper, scissors shit out in the West. And, you know, like, they caught matchups that worked for them. And, you know, they got J-Dub absolutely blew his asshole out all over the court. And, you know, they beat the Thunder. And
PJ Washington had the series of his life. But
you
get that in the playoffs sometimes. And I think at a minimum, the Klay factor, even though I think Klay is like pretty washed, I think the Klay factor at least gives them a guy that can be a bullshit shooter that I think that they really were missing at times, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, they were really just like dying for I mean, every round except for the Wolves matchup, really. They had some sort of, either they benefited from injury luck or they face a young team or whatever. I don't think that they're going to be able to duplicate the success they had this year, but I do think that Luka was not 100%. And I also think that their they're pushing in their chips as much as they can for a team that doesn't have much ammo left. Like they traded the majority, like they only have 2 picks to trade. And I think not trading those picks this offseason was actually a savvy move because you want to wait until the market cools a little bit before Mikal Bridges going for 5 first-round picks really fucked up the forward wing market. Now, like, the Blazers are going to want 2 or 3 first-round picks for Jeremy Grant, and like he's just not worth that. And now I think you have a little bit more time to make another move if you need to make it. You still have the flexibility.
Right. My thing with this is it's just like, how do you grade not getting that much better, but like also you didn't give up much and you did get a little bit better. So like
this is what it's very reminiscent of the Kings offseason to me. We're you didn't really do much. You made upgrades, but not upgrades that I think are like tangibly, they have more upside, but also like I don't think your team's going to be all that much better next year. If your team is better, I think it's due to the fact that Derek Lively is just going to be much better next year. And I think he will be, to be clear. So I would give it a B.
Oh, you would give it a B. I was to say I agree with Chat that it's a C. I think is probably.
If we give this a C, we have to drop the Kings to C then, because I think it's almost the same exact style offseason.
I'm okay with that because I think my knee jerk was to give the Kings a C.
I'll give you this one because I'm not going to put you.
We can go back again. We can go. We have plenty of time. We're on a blistering pace here.
I get a kick out of the fact that we're like we both agreed that the Hawks whiffed on the number 1 pick and we put them at B.
They did good. They did good outside of that though. Like they sold, which was the right thing to do this offseason. Speaking of which, let's do the Nets.
They're like the Mavericks are going to be way better than the Hawks next year, but that's not what the exercise is.
That's not what the exercise is, right? Like if the Hawks had Luka Doncic, do you imagine if the Hawks could have got Luka Doncic if they had an opportunity to do that?
No.
Yeah, that would have been crazy.
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if I were the Hawks, I would prefer to get a worse version of Luka Doncic and also Cam Reddish. Anyway.
It's crazy. I could like visualize Luka Doncic in a Hawks hat for whatever reason. Like it's very clear in my mind's eye. So anyway,
Luka at Magic City, Dre said.
That's awesome.
Luka's off perks at the club with fucking Future.
Dude, we missed it. Honestly, Luka would have loved Atlanta. Luka would have been.
Oh my god, dude!
Can you imagine? Like that would have been awesome. Like talk about wasting a cultural impact. Like sending him to like one of our most bereft and disgusting cities in Dallas instead of. Like Atlanta, that would have been so much better in Atlanta. Yeah.
Right. That would have been hilarious.
That would have been awesome. Yeah. I'm picking next. Let's do the Nets. Speaking of which, I want to get the Nets out of the way.
Okay, the Nets. All right.
I agree.
I put them in S for anyone who's listening on audio.
I agree. I think they nailed it. Like the Bridges return is. I really think it's going to go down as Gobert-esque. Like, I do not think the Knicks are going to be a 2 or a 1 seed this year. I know a lot of people are saying that because they were really good.
But they will make the conference finals the next year.
Yes. Possible. But, like, I think it was a savvy move. They sold a lot of their picks. They're not done, by the way. They still have Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith, and I feel like they're going to trade those guys. Yeah. Either before the season or at the deadline.
The beautiful thing about keeping those guys is that they're good role players that make you know better when you don't have a lead creator. So, even if you have to hold on to them, they're going to have value to other teams. Now, you don't want to drive their value into the toilet by showing off that. But at the same time, like, I think they'll still have trade value around the league. Yeah. And your team's still going to win, like, 15 games this year.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be bad. But, like, this is a great draft to be bad in. Cooper Flagg was fucking destroying the Olympic team out of the select team. Like, get a shot at that. We've been talking about how this is, if you're a team that has no shot to make a title, you should absolutely be selling because no one was selling. I think the Jazz might have fucked this up.
Well, I want to go a step further than if you have no shot to make a title. We said you have no shot to make the playoffs.
Yes.
Because, like, the Jazz and the Nets are so far away from that.
Yes.
That I think that this was the perfect opportunity for them. I gave them shit for years for not selling high on Mikal Bridges, and they waited it out and actually sold the highest you could ever sell on him.
Yes. No, they did amazing, and they're nailing it right at the right time. Like, who cares? They get their pick out of the way in this draft. They did some swaps to kind of get their picks back,
Yeah.
which were kind of sneaky with those Suns picks. And like,
how do you think that went down? Do you think that he called up Houston and was like, listen, if we're not going to trade Mikal Bridges, we're going to go the opposite direction and trade for like Trae Young or someone in that mold and make our team better and it's going to hurt your draft picks. But if you're willing to give us those, if you're willing to swap those picks for the Suns picks and give us our own picks back, we're willing to do that. And then we'll consider making other moves.
I think that's what they said. I think they said, like, look, let's shit or get off the pot time. You guys can see just as plain as us that Ishbia is in over his head and he's a fucking moron. That thing's a disaster. They're in a worse position than we are.
Yeah.
Because we could like sign free agents and like plod along and you could get the 13th pick.
But we're also not in financial hell. Like the second apron thing is like such a disaster for the Suns.
The Suns, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, so you can pick, like, either we fuck your picks up and you can pick 7th 9 years in a row, or we can both get out of this on top. We can give you these picks that are probably going to be better in the long term. But you just give us the chance to rebuild next year and like, we'll go in the tank. I think that's how it went down. I think they were honest with them. Like, here's our sliding doors moment, because we don't obviously want to tank if we're just giving you the number 1 pick. We're not going to do that. Yep. But if you trade with us for the Suns, that gives us a chance to rebuild.
And now I think the Rockets are eyeing Devin Booker is what I'd imagine.
Yes.
2 years from now, the Rockets are like, all right, we have all these prospects. We have all these picks. You're fucked. Don't you want your picks back?
Yeah, right.
Like at a minimum here, we can give you a few of your picks back and we can kind of, redo this thing a little bit for the Suns. So, I mean, I think the Nets, all their other moves they made were kind of just side moves. Like, they brought back Claxton on like a 4-year, $100 million deal. That's fine. It's a little bit of an overpay for him.
Whenever we say that something's a little bit of an overpay, it usually ends up being fine.
I think it's fine. Yeah. I think that he'll still be able to be traded on that if they need to trade him, and if they want to keep him while they tank, and maybe he just likes Brooklyn enough that he'll stick around. He's stuck through all this.
I said the Jaylen Brunson deal was a little bit of an overpay, by the way. I'm just,
I mean, I think Clax is good. I just don't think that he's going to be able to show that on this Nets team.
No, he won't.
And I think that he'll have value for other teams more than he'll have value for the Nets.
They signed him to trade him in 2 years.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're giving this an S tier. Yeah. I mean, I can't really argue with anything else. They brought back Trendon Watford.
Let's go.
Huge deal for Trendon. My favorite player, who sounds like an English soccer player. So I'm fine with this. I think it asks that you couldn't. I'm glad they finally leaned into it, because the Nets have never tanked.
Yeah.
And they now have more draft until the Jazz eventually trade Lauri Markkanen. They have more draft picks than any team in the NBA right now. I think they even have more draft picks than first round picks.
Yes.
Than the Thunder now. So they're in a good spot. Like, I think that they have a lot of margin for error in a way that they really didn't before. Like, they had to hope that the Phoenix thing went to piss and shit, and now they have so many different options to go down. So
they get to do a true rebuild, which the Nets have literally never done in their history. So
yeah. So it's good. I'm happy for Nets fans that they finally picked a direction. Yep. Okay, so we have who do you want to pick from? The Chicago Bulls. The Spurs made some moves this offseason.
Yeah, I don't care. Let's just pick. Let's start knocking these out.
Okay, so Bulls. They did the Giddey for Caruso trade. They also barely got anything for DeMar DeRozan after sitting on that for a while. They brought back Patrick Williams. Okay, I just want to talk about the Patrick Williams contract real quick, because we didn't really get a chance to talk about that. Everyone knows I don't like Patrick Williams. Like,
it's a fine contract.
I think it's a fine deal.
It's a fine contract.
I want to put in perspective here for people who think it's a bad contract. I don't think Patrick Williams is anything more than like a fifth starter, second wing. But that contract is like basically what the MLE is in 3 years. He's only making $18 million. Like, it's not really that much. It just seems like a lot because our brains haven't adjusted to the new numbers. The percentage of the cap that is very small. Like it's not even more than 10% of it's around 10% of the cap, I think. So I mean, for now it's a little bit more than 10%, but by the end of it, it's less than 10%, or it's around 10%. It's less than Kyle Kuzma. Like it's not anything. Like I actually think that contract was fine because you just assume Patrick Williams gets better. I'm not a Patrick Williams guy at all, but I think that was one of the moves I didn't hate from their offseason. That was like, I thought that was totally fine. But they drafted Buzelis, they traded Caruso for Giddey. They they lost DeMar for nothing. They got Chris Duarte and Jalen Smith. They really love the Pacers from 2 years ago, I guess.
Was Andre Drummond on the Bulls last year, or am I making that up?
He was. They also it has been confirmed to me that they had a deal set up for Andre Drummond to go to the Sixers at the deadline, where they would have gotten like a lot of second round picks, and they dropped out at the last second to try to make the play in, and they basically fucked the Sixers over, and they lost him for nothing.
Filled, by the way, this is a resilient man. Like, this is. I am in awe of Kevin's strength to look at the Buzelis thing and be like, yeah, he can pass and defend. It'll be okay.
I want to see what he looks like in Summer League because
maybe he'll be fine. Who knows? Yeah.
All I know is that the draft is an estimated crapshoot. We're only going based on what we've seen so far. There's a chance Buzelis is not as bad as I think he's going to be.
Yeah, no, I'm wrong all the time. I think he's terrible, and he's probably going to be the 28th pick in this draft. But I'm wrong all the time. So,
but I also want to say that, like, at one point during this draft cycle, I thought Cody Williams was good. I had him like 9th on my board, and then I was like, I dropped him a little bit. And the more I watched him in Summer League, and I'm like, oh, he's just an instant bust. I promise you, I know people are going to say he's 19, 20, whatever. There's no way that I dropped him to 16 on my board, and I wish that I had dropped him into the 20s. Like, I'm positive that he's not going to be an NBA player. It was shocking how bad not only did he look terrible, but when he doesn't have the ball, it's like he doesn't exist on the court.
Are you going to join me on Christian De Silva was the real sauce on that?
No,
Colorado
I'm
team?
still not in on Tristan. I think KJ Simpson is a better player.
Okay.
Here's my thing with Tristan De Silva.
Okay.
I think best case scenario, he's a 7th man. And
That's
I think
true.
likely
that
scenario, he's like a 9th man. And like, that's fine. But like, I'm just not, I don't think he's good enough or athletic enough to be a difference maker in the NBA. But I will say, I could be totally wrong here on Cody Williams, but I was stunned how bad Cody Williams looked in Summer League. And look, Summer League isn't everything. Sometimes guys struggle in Summer League, but there's just been this constant theme and pattern that when I watch him, it's like he doesn't exist on the court. It's like he's not there. He's like fucking somewhere else. And that's just like a really bad sign.
El Mencho 81 just said Cody Williams' nickname will be The Shadow.
I mean, Kev nailed it before the draft. He was like, he's Tony Snell. And I was like, Tony Snell at least had seasons where he shot 40% from 3, like he said in the comments. Like, I'm just shocked how bad Cody Williams at one point during Summer League missed 16 of 17 shots in a row and looked awkward as hell doing it. And if he was not Jalen Williams' brother, I don't think that anyone would think that he has a chance to be good.
Okay.
I'm fully, I've pivoted.
Okay. Let me do a little contrarian cooking here real quick.
Okay.
Trae Young was unbelievably bad during Summer League.
Yes.
His year. I thought it was Jover for him.
Yeah.
Kevin Knox cooked his first Summer League in the NBA. So
there are exceptions to every rule.
There's exceptions to all that. Yeah.
I agree, but also go watch Cody. Like, if you watch Cody,
I'm not
college.
I agree.
I know.
I agree
but this is my thing. Is that my thing with Cody Williams is, and you can always change. Look, he can get better. His handle can get better. He can get stronger. He can work on a shot. But like, my thing with him is that every time I watch him, it's like he doesn't exist.
I'm laughing at Pitty saying Summer League Cody showed flashes of playoff J-Dub.
Runs in the family.
That's points right there.
But no, look, maybe they're just a weird late blooming family, and I'm totally wrong on this, but I'm like pretty certain that was a complete whiff of a pick already.
Do we want to put the Bulls in F tier and then just go straight to the Jazz since
yes.
we're talking about Cody Williams already? Yeah, let's just put the Bulls in F tier.
Yep.
They squandered. They had chances to trade out of all they did, and
this is
really
bozo,
fucked it up. Got a terrible return. Yeah. Karn Stovis is without a doubt now. I'm still keeping an eye on Trajan Langford, but like he's definitely the worst GM in the league.
Trajan Langdon.
Romeo Langford, Trajan.
His brother, Trajan. Romeo and Trajan. That old Shakespeare.
No, AK got the belt right now though for worst GM. Like the bullet right now. So
yeah. He better hope Buzelis is good, or else his job's gone in a year.
Yeah.
So, all right. The Jazz. So here's the thing with the Jazz: they haven't done anything other than the draft.
Yes.
They've done literally nothing. Danny Ainge is just.
I say D, and I say D for that reason.
Okay.
They're fucking up right now. They're the bozo Brooklyn Nets. Like they need to sell. Like they have way too many guys. They're like filled with shit, like having John Collins under fucking contract on their team. They've got somehow have Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton. They haven't played. They have like all these young guys they traded. Like you look at their draft afterwards, and it's like, oh, they got Isaiah Collier and they got Filipowski like in the second round, and they got Cody Williams. Like that's a good draft. And then you like watch those guys play. Filipowski was fucking awful. Like I might have to eat that one.
Okay, all right. I don't want to overreact too much to Summer League, just though I just literally just did with the player on the Jazz. Because I actually thought Isaiah Collier impressed me the most out of all their guys. He actually had some moments, some good defensive playmaking. He was shooting well. And that's my thing with Collier has always been, I just fade guards who can't shoot. And if he can actually shoot and showed some touch in these games, then I think that his game can fall into place very nicely.
If he can shoot, there will be you do not under any circumstances got to hand it to ISIL for draft Twitter if Collier's good.
Yeah, I was going to say there are occasionally guys that have bad shooting years in college.
Yeah.
That bounce back in the pros, and he might be one of those guys. Yeah. And here's the thing I'll say about their draft. Even I can't even hate on the process of the Cody Williams pick. I can't even hate on the process of the Filipowski pick. I can't hate on the process of the Collier pick. Danny Ainge literally for 2 straight drafts has just taken the players who fell. And at the time we all go, someone pointed this out in the Discord, we all go, hey, why did these guys fall? And then they kind of show why they fell a little bit.
Like Hendricks, I liked Hendricks coming out last year and he just didn't fucking play all year.
Yes. That is not a flawless draft strategy is what we're trying to get at here.
Yeah.
But the reason why you acquire all these picks is just to keep taking the swings. Because, like, I'm pretty certain Cody Williams is not going to be a guy, but Collier might be a guy and he fell. Filipowski might be a guy and he fell. There's a chance that these guys just one of these guys, 2 of these guys pop. But they're so far away from competing. Here's my only thing, and someone did say this to me. Are we sure that they can't just tank next year with Lowry Markkanen on the roster?
No, they can. But the problem is that like you're doing the exact thing that I fucking hate, which is you're burying your young guys. You can't just draft these guys and expect them to just be good. They have to fucking play. And they have a bunch of bozo vets that are like in front of these guys that are going to play over them.
Clarkson, Collins, those guys,
Collins, I know Sexton's like been pretty good, but like he's I don't think he's worth like tanking Collier's development for that. Like Keontae George probably doesn't play as much as he should, like even for that team. They have so many young guys that they need to like fucking play, and they just have all of these also ran vets on there. They needed to clear that out this offseason, and they didn't. And I think that's really fucking bad for playing these guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that I don't like the strategy. I don't like the approach. I think Ainge is really starting to reach kind of wash levels of GMing right now, where we said this a few years ago, like everyone praised him for getting all those picks, but it's easier to tear it down than it is to build it up. And I know we just gave Sean Marks credit for finally picking a direction. The difference between the Nets and the Jazz were that the Jazz were a good team who had Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Now, look, that team was never going to win a championship, but them tearing it down to the studs and even waiting to tear it down to the studs too, that's probably the thing that's a little bit overlooked, is the fact that they waited to trade Mike Conley. They waited to kind of, make moves. They wanted to have this level of competence, and that got them stuck in the 8 to 12 range, and they just haven't really hit on any of those picks except for maybe Keontae. And now it's starting to be like, all right, you're 3 years into your rebuild. You're still stuck in this weird purgatory area. You have all these picks, but those teams look pretty good right now. But the Cavs and Wolves look like they're pretty set up in a way that I don't think that any of us could have really predicted 2 years ago. Maybe with the Wolves because, Ant was so young. But I don't think that this is going to be, he can't just hit the call Billy King and get picks that are going to be good in 3 years, 4 years, whenever he made that trade.
He's also kind of on the clock with Lauri Markkanen. I know they're going to say they're just going to re-sign him. Is Lauri Markkanen good enough to where maxing him in this cap environment is a good idea?
So they can extend him. And I know the new CBA has friendlier rules when it comes to extensions, but they can extend him and then still trade him by the deadline technically. But the deadline for that is 1 month from now. And does it hurt his trade value if you're giving him, in this new CBA environment, if you're giving him $40 million, I don't even know what the max number they can offer him is.
It's probably going to be 50 because they have his bird rates.
I think that Lauri Markkanen has become so fucking overrated this offseason. He's a really good player that has a unique skill set that it has done awesome on a shitty team the last few years. I think he would fit on a lot of teams. I think he would be great. He's also never played in the playoffs. He's not a lead creator, and he's not a defensive ace. So, there are specific teams he fits into, but, if the Warriors really sell out all their draft capital for him, I think it would be a massive mistake. And, trade Jonathan Kuminga in addition to that, I just think it would be a huge mistake.
The Jazz needed to trade him this offseason, and if they don't do it by the trade deadline, I think it's a huge mistake. And I think they really hamper their ability to they kind of start turning themselves into the Kings from a few years ago, where it's you don't really have a guy you can kind of, you have a lot of these top draft picks. You've got these guys, but they don't really fit together. And it's just kind of you need a direction. They need to start having a direction soon. And Danny Ainge is just kind of hanging on to these vets, and they need to get those guys out of there. They need to play their young guys to figure out who sucks and who doesn't, and then go from there with who are we going to keep and who are we going to get rid of. And
that's the thing that I think that the Thunder rebuild has been really good at.
Yes.
Is that they identify, this guy sucks. They're we'll play him, we'll give him a chance, and then if they suck, we'll just trade them.
We'll trade him to the Bulls for Alex Caruso. It's fine.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I agree. Pick a direction. I look, they're probably the one team that could tomorrow he could blow this up.
Yes.
And they could pick a direction and it could look a lot better. But
yes,
for right now,
agreed.
For where they're at, a D is appropriate for me. I think it's at a minimum an incomplete, and I don't like it at all. No. So all right, let's go to the Knicks. We haven't talked about the Knicks yet.
Okay.
Because they made the Mikal Bridges trade. That's really the only thing that matters. Obviously losing Hartenstein isn't great.
They did successfully re-sign OG.
They brought back OG. And I don't know if they're done. Because I think
they're done. I think they're pretty much done.
All right, we'll see. Let's just say I think that they might have a big move in store.
Oh boy, big move. Big move.
Perhaps a big purr, if you will.
Tom Thibodeau, big move. Here's. Can I make the argument for D?
Sure.
They gave up a shitload for Mikal Bridges for no reason at a position of no real value. Didn't get any like high viability upside and doubled down on kind of a lightning in a bottle season a little bit. Like I really did not like this move. They treated this offseason like they were, I don't know, they were the Phoenix Suns and they needed like from like last year and they had the high level talent. They just needed a stabilizing presence.
Yeah.
And they went out and got like the 40th best player in the NBA to add to this core that's good at like not being bad. That's what the Knicks are good at. They're Jalen Brunson and then guys that aren't bad is like their winning formula. Like, and I don't know, like Mitchell Robinson like can't stay healthy and then you let the better center walk. That's going to be a fucking problem. What happens if Mitchell Robinson gets hurt? You're going to play Randall at center and like I know your defense has been great. Like you'll probably still be able to rebound the ball, but where is the rim protection going to be? And like what's going to happen there? Especially you're not going to be able to protect Brunson as much in that situation. He's going to get tired even quicker. I don't know. I think this was the Knicks were so patient for so long and did a really good incremental. And I think this was them shooting their wad for the wrong fucking player. Like I get that like Embiid wasn't available. Giannis, it might not have been available. Like, and they had this.
It's safe to say Giannis wasn't available.
Yeah, like they had this success, and I think it's really fucking damaging. And I don't think. I think they closed their title window. Do you think this team can win the title?
I mean, I kind of think that I can't really say. So here's the thing: I don't think this team can win the title. To be clear,
yeah.
But I think that they could get to the finals. And here's why. I feel like the last few years, the only thing that matters is who's healthy in the playoffs. I don't know if the Tibbs team is the team I should trust, especially when you consider if Mitchell Robinson and OG are such important parts of this core. I think the thing that they fucked up on here, and an OKC fan brought this up to me in the about them potentially drafting Cody Williams. He said, what if we draft Cody Williams and he sucks? And then 2 years from now, we have to trade J-Dub's brother. Is that good for the vibes? Yeah. And I think them locking themselves into this core four of Villanova guys. What if in 2 years, Giannis is like, trade me there and they don't have the salary to match? I'm just hypothetically here. Like they have like, oh, we got some of our pick ammo back. We have like 5 first-round picks. We could get Giannis, but we can't trade Josh Hart because he's part of the Fantastic Four friends. I think that's honestly going to limit the moves they can make moving forward. But anyway.
I don't like
look,
I think it's bad.
I think they doubled down on the no-shitters thing. They made, I think having important wings, two-way forwards, as the Thinking Basketball podcast put it, is extremely important. And they have two of the best at that in Bridges and OG. But I don't know. If you had told me a month ago, or a little over a month ago, whatever the trade happened, if you told me a month ago that they traded Isaiah Hartenstein and 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, I would say, what a disaster. Like, flat out. Like, I think it's a disaster. Like, from a asset going out, the player coming in thing. I think it's easier to find a replacement for Hartenstein than it is to find a replacement level guy that is similar to a Mikal Bridges, though. I think that's the difference. And if they can find a facsimile of Hartenstein, who is 80% of Isaiah Hartenstein, then I think that they will be fine. But I think that I think there's massive downside to this. And I think that the upside is worth it for where the Knicks are out in their rebuild. They try to be fair to them, like they did try. Like, did they not try to get a star for fucking years, and then this Jaylen Brunson thing kind of fell into their lap? Like, that's the only thing that I have to say. Like, it's not like they didn't want Embiid or Giannis or Luka or one of these guys. No, they just never became available. And I agree that you shouldn't push in all your chips on a DeJounte Murray level guy. But they did it with Bridges. Like, that's the thing. It's like, Bridges is better than Murray, but like, they kind of they might have screwed themselves by getting impatient at the wrong time.
That's my thing. Is
right.
I think,
when they've been so patient and it's worked out great for them.
Exactly. They've done it. They've been quietly like one of the best like front offices for like the last like 3 or 4 years. Like they've done a really good job like the last 3 or 4 years. And then they fucking like, I don't know. This just reeks of blowing it because and they didn't even get that far. They didn't even make the conference finals, which is crazy. You know, like they could have, like they probably should have if they have a little bit of better health luck. But
question for you:
yes,
if I told you that they traded Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns, how would you feel about their offseason?
Better.
Okay, so then their starting five is good. So then their starting five is Brunson, Bridges, Hart, OG, Cat.
I kind of like that team. I'm going to be honest.
I'm telling you, dogs, I think it's a possibility.
Cat, the 4 dogs and Cat. I kind of like. Yeah.
If that happens, if that happens, which I think it could happen. I'm just saying, I think it could happen.
There's no picks though.
I'm telling you, in this second apron environment,
maybe
that Cat contract doesn't have a ton of value.
I feel like somebody's going to offer something better than that, than what the Knicks are offering.
Okay, we'll see. All right, so for now, we're putting them in D.
I feel pretty strongly D. So
yeah, okay. We haven't even talked about the Thunder. Let's talk about the Thunder.
This is my ultimate. You do not, under any circumstances, have to hand it to ISO, but I think
Caruso?
I'm leaning ass.
Giddy out, Caruso in.
That's good.
Got Isaiah Hartenstein, who was the second or third best player to change teams in free agency.
They used the casino torture methods to bring back their fringe guys on good contracts.
Yeah,
they can still trade
Isaiah Joe.
They didn't really trade draft picks, by the way.
Yeah,
which is fucking insane.
And we haven't even gotten to their draft, which, by the way, I overreacted to Cody Williams on the opposite negative way in Summer League because fuck it, why not? I'm going the other direction, overreacting. They got Topic at 11 or 12. Yeah. Who was your number one guy? I had him like 5 or 6 on my board. I can't remember.
Yeah.
They got him. I think I had him 4 on my board, actually. They got him, and then they took AJ Mitchell, who looked awesome in Summer League, and Dylan Jones. They're both a little bit older, so I want to give it time. But Dylan Jones looked like a fucking star the other night in the game that I caught him in. I was like, the shot making from him was incredible. He's such a funky player. He fits in so well with their team. They're basically like doubling and tripling down on these creator bets. And I think that is something that they needed coming out of the playoffs. So like, yeah, they crushed the draft. They got 2 of the best players to change teams this offseason. And they didn't give up any first round picks other than the ones that they spent in the draft, which was literally just that one pick that they had. So that's an S tier offseason from me. I think they're set up extremely well still. You have to hand it to Presti in this circle.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have to drop my. Yeah, he got away with it. Folks.
Okay, Denver Nuggets. You want to put them in F?
Do we have C for cash?
Money.
No, run me my money, bitch. That was the Denver Nuggets offseason. Cash only. Like the Vince McMahon sniffing the stack of $100 bills. That was the Denver. I'm kidding. Don't actually put them in C tier. I think they're F tier. I think they
I moved them to D because they did get our guy in the draft. I did forget about that.
But he might suck. I mean, he's our guy, but like
sometimes I like shitty players.
Shit on that fucking thing. Like I don't know. Like I'll admit I'm a little freaked out about all the Obi Toppin stuff, and the more I like watch that, I'm like, But here's the thing. You have the best player in the NBA. The guy who has been the best player in the NBA for 4 years. You won the title last fucking year.
Yeah.
And you're being cheap assholes about this fucking team. Like, it's not even like you could trade Michael Porter Jr. I'm almost positive. Like, they gave Tobias Harris fucking money this offseason. You could have traded Michael Porter Jr. to the Pistons. I'm almost positive. And, like, just paid KCP. But they didn't want to do that. I think this is like an offseason that is bad in like a very glaring way and reflects like very poorly on the ownership. Everybody, I like Julian Strawther coming out of the draft. You can't just suddenly be putting Julian Strawther in your rotation and expect to be.
And he's also the only guy they drafted in that draft with those 3 picks that has a chance to become a guy too.
Yeah,
to be clear. Like they took swings on 3 guys, and 2 of them are very obviously not guys. They're already 24.
I'm not sure Christian Brown is an NBA starter. He's fine, but like, is he an NBA starter? Like, I don't think so.
I mean, look, I think they're going to be good in the regular season next year. I think that they have Jokic.
They have Jokic.
But that is not what we're doing right now. I think what we're doing right now is, I actually think people have overreacted a little bit to the KCP. I think KCP has become a little bit overrated this offseason. But I also recognize the fact that they have no way to replace him is the bigger issue for me. If they had went out and they had tried to trade for like Quentin Grimes or someone that could have potentially filled in that gap, maybe tried to take a flyer on, I don't know, Haywood Highsmith or something, in free agency to try to get anyone to fill in that gap for them, I would have liked the offseason a little bit more, because at least you're trying something, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they are now relying on these guys that are unproven, and more importantly to me, the fact that they are like, they're going to have to pay to keep Aaron Gordon now too. They're bringing back Jamal Murray. Like, I don't think that's been finalized, by the way. You know, Shams might have got
Yes, I saw
Shams again for the second time. Although the Cade thing did eventually happen, which that was what they reported originally. So, but like, I don't know. I just kind of look at like you said, like, this is an unsustainable model that they're doing right now. And my biggest thing, like, someone tweeted, one of the Denver propagandists, I can't remember who was like trying to like save face for the front office, and was like, their targets are, you know, Darius Saric, who they just picked up with the taxpayer MLE, and Russell Westbrook, who appears to be on his way to Denver sometime soon. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a great plan for 2017. That's your big offseason moves? Like, I don't think you should go crazy and like overpay to get some role player who doesn't really matter, but like,
keep your guys though. I don't know. Like,
keep your guys. And like, if KCP got $30 million a year, I would be like, okay, KCP is not worth $30 million. Let him walk.
Yeah.
He got like 22, 23 mil. Like, he didn't get that much money, right? Like, he got like above average starter money, 366. Like that, you could have brought him back on that. I think you could have, even if you didn't want to pay him for the whole thing, I think you could have traded him on it.
Yeah, you could probably trade him on that. And it's just like, but the thing is, then you're in the tax apron, and I just think Kroenke is the cheapest bastard. I don't think there's more to this. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that this is like some brilliant. I think it's exactly what it looks like, which is Kroenke is one of the cheapest asshole owners in sports, and these guys. This is rich guys. Rich guys they like winning, but they like being smart more. And being smart is getting results with less money. Like, it's less about the actual money and more about being smart with the money and like getting the same results with less resources. That's why they all jack off to Moneyball. Like, that is like their genius level. That's why Michael Lewis is the fucking guy who wrote that. And he's a fucking like finance adjacent guy, because they're all fucking fascinated with that type of thing. That type of thing to rich guys is like the platonic ideal, and I think Kroenke deserves all the contempt he should get, and if Nuggets fans shouldn't let him get away with it. Like, the Nuggets probably should be walking out of this era with 2 to 3 titles, and they might walk out of it with just 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible, especially because all the second apron stuff I think is fine to worry about because people are giving the Clippers and the Warriors a lot of shit, and I'm like, I mean, I don't think either of those teams are contenders pretty much no matter what they do. I understand why they're avoiding the second apron. Like, their window's probably done. Like, it's not the same as the Nuggets to me. The Nuggets are squarely in the middle of their window with one of the best players that we've seen in quite some time. And they're just completely fumbling it. So, anyway.
Dre calling me out on...
you do say it every pod.
Let me just tell you this. I got a call that night from someone with a different front office, and they told me I understood that the Clippers had to do the trade, but it could go down as the worst trade in NBA history.
Yeah, I think we should rehash this again on the podcast today.
Yeah,
I think we should run down the whole lineage of the Paul George Clippers fiasco. Do you want to do the Clippers next?
Yeah, F. Easy. Next.
You want to put him in F? So here's the thing. I'm starting to get it a little bit.
Oh no.
You
heard it here first. Trill loves Kevin Porter Jr., folks.
No. I forgot about that. Please scrub that from the record.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Kawhi might be cooked, dude.
That's true.
If Kawhi's cooked, or do you want to go into the second apron and struggle with all those penalties if Kawhi just can't play anymore?
No, but I'd find a way to trade Paul George.
They couldn't because he wouldn't take he asked for a no trade clause.
Okay, but you knew this was happening. You could have traded him last offseason.
I agree. They should have gotten ahead of it, but also sunk cost fallacy. Like, you got to the offseason and you're not gonna then go into the second apron because of this, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, I understand it a little bit more now that I think that Kawhi just got sent home by Team USA. He is never healthy. Well, I mean, look, they could do it still. Does he have any value? Like, this is the thing. Is like the only reason I understand it from the Clippers' perspective now that we're here, sitting here, knowing what we know, is because of the Kawhi thing.
Yeah.
And like, say what you will about last year, and like, yeah, maybe they should have traded Paul George. Maybe they should have got ahead of this. Honestly, if they could go back in time, they probably just trade Paul George for James Harden. And they keep their role. I mean, they basically, because that way they're not giving up the last of their draft capital. And they're keeping Batum, who they just re-signed. But I just kind of think they're in a situation right now where like the team is the team. And if they brought back Paul George and they paid him all this money, there's a chance they get stuck with the contract and they might not be able to trade him. He wanted a no trade clause. Like, I kind of get why they moved on. Just because of the fact that like Kawhi might be done. I still don't like their offseason because that's what the exercise is, because I think their team's just not going to be good next year. I think they have depth. But like, if Kawhi is out for half the year or can't go at all, my prediction for next year is that Harden is forcing a trade to the Lakers halfway through the season.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's why the Lakers don't want to make a big move right now, because they know that's like a ticking time bomb. And if Harden's not going to want to leave LA now that he's there.
Oh God.
But I mean, look, what can you do if you're the Clippers? Like, so you would have just paid Paul George. You would have just ran it back with the team that they have, and then just hope that Paul.
Like, not necessarily, but they didn't even like. But you've got to, if you're going to do that, I guess what my issue with what they did is they could become sellers too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could do some more of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? You could take on bad salary. because God knows there's a shitload of it right now. Like
they have a lot of it.
They could pivot to it, and I just don't think they're interested in that because they're going into their new building right next year. I don't know. I mean, I get your point that like the circumstances of this particular offseason, it's hard to judge them for what they did this offseason based on maybe they got new information with Kawhi being done. But like they set themselves up for this over the course of many years. Yes. So it's like how do we grade them for that?
The cocaine stash finally ran out in the Clippers front office is what I'm trying to get at here. Because for years I kept saying they're the team that makes these cocaine-addled moves where none of it makes sense. Like, why are you trading for Eric Gordon when you already have Norm Powell on the team?
Yes.
And like you're trading a pick swap that ends up becoming Cam Whitmore because of that. And why are you, constantly just making moves for the hell of it? Fuck it. Bring in Russell Westbrook. Bring in whoever. John Wall, get him. Let Isaiah Hartenstein walk. Like, this was the first offseason that they took a step back. And they said, okay, do we really want to do this? And go into the second apron for a team that has no chance to win the title. And also, on top of that, has the chance of having real downside. Like, I mean, look, I think they would have been a playoff team even if they bring back Paul George next year. I think if they bring back Paul George, Harden, obviously they don't get Derek Jones Jr. and Nick Batum in that situation, but I think they would have been able to figure it out, scrape by and get to the playoffs. But like, I don't think that they're if Kawhi's just done, they're done.
Yeah.
And I understand it a little bit more now, but just on its face, like, I don't think you can give this anything more than a D.
Yeah. And I think it's on top of that, just repulsive work bringing Kevin Porter Jr. back.
Oh yeah, that was disgusting.
So F tier on that too. So,
yep, yeah. Also, by the way, the Chris Dunn sign and trade that's still not done. It's still not done. What is happening? It's been like 2 weeks. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Oh god damn.
Also, since when has Chris Dunn become prime Gary Payton?
Yeah,
the way
I don't
that
know.
People talk about him on Twitter, I'm like,
they treat him like he's Caruso.
I'm like, he's fine. Like, I think he's going to be like solid.
He's like Dennis Smith Jr. Like they're similar.
I think he's better than Dennis Smith Jr., but like, I don't think it's that big of a margin.
Yeah.
He's fine. Like, he's like, hey, he's a fifth guy you can throw into some lineups. He's going to be a good defender. He's got some chops on offense, I guess. He can kind of shoot now. It was really funny because I saw Clippers fans sharing clips the other day. They were like, watch him lock down Tyrese Maxey on this possession. And then I quote tweeted it and I was like, Tyrese Maxey scored 51 points in this game and missed like 5 shots the whole game. I was like, this is not the game you want to pick, guys.
Oh man.
It rules. But all right, let's
I think let's speed it up and go a little faster.
Let's do a speed round here.
Okay. Celtics. I want to go B or A for the Celtics.
I mean, the Celtics didn't make moves, but also why would they?
That's what I'm saying. Like, they brought their championship level
I actually think I was
literally brought the whole team.
The Derek White extension's very good. The Jason Tatum extension was a no-brainer. Yeah. And they didn't really make any other moves.
Yeah.
But they didn't draft Ulrich.
They got Xavier Tillman back, which was the thing I was really concerned about, which I think could have blown up in their face. I think I'm not even doing a bit. Like, I really think that big depth could have hurt them this year. So,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, and as Mateo points out in the comments, they're also like selling to either the Saudis or the Emiratis. So like,
yeah, it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be awesome. Like,
yeah, the NBA Cup brought to you by the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, let's go. Charlotte Hornets, F, D.
What did they do? I don't. Oh God, they brought back Miles Bridges on a terrible contract.
Brought back Miles Bridges on a bad contract. They also didn't do like. Who did they draft?
They drafted to John Saloon with the 6th pick.
I think that's fine, to be honest. It's like maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but like I don't hate that much. But like
I kind of hate that pick, to be honest. But I also, maybe. I mean, they weren't going to trade down because there was just no value in trading down. And then they got Josh Green for free, basically, because they took on the Reggie Jackson contract. For some seconds, and then they flipped 1 of those seconds, 2 of those seconds, 2 for Josh Green. I like the Josh Green flyer. That's a solid, like for a team that's in a rebuilding process. That's fine. The Miles Bridges move is gross. And he's also not worth 375 even to take away the off the court stuff.
Quick aside, because we're doing late breaking, Biden's conference is going on right now.
Let's go.
Will says that he literally just did the Ishbia thing with what country wouldn't want to trade places with us economically, which is awesome. That's so good.
The United States is facing severe second apron penalties that are coming down the pipeline.
Biden is kind of a Brad Beal. There's a no trade clause on him.
Listen, like am I saying that Kyle Lowry is better than Bradley Beal? No. But would it be better to just have Kyle Lowry on the Suns at a minimum?
He literally does have a no trade clause. Everyone's saying you have to go, and he's like, "No, I don't."
Kamala's likable. Like, come on. She did the coconut memes and shit. I don't know.
I feel bad for our country, but this is tremendous content.
Oh, it's amazing content. So great.
I want to give them an F just on because they obviously didn't do that much. I want to give them an F on principle just for the Miles Bridges thing. But and they really didn't do that much else. Like, to be totally honest, they got Josh Green in the trade, right?
For free, yeah.
For free, which that's like a fine bit of work. It's probably more like it's probably a C. It's probably a C off season, but like the Miles Bridges thing is so gross. Like,
yeah, we got to penalize them a little bit for that.
Yeah.
Also, they waived Poku and Bertans, so obviously they're not about that life.
Devastating anti-Eastern European bias.
Gross.
Remember
when everyone had Poku number 1 on their board in 2020? That was a fun time.
That was awesome. Let's go.
Who is the guy that we look back on? This is me looking in a few years when Cody Williams makes an all-star team and everyone cuts that clip and I'm like, there's no way this guy's an NBA player. He sucks.
Look, we all gotta have one. Yeah, with Brandon Miller.
I mean, well, you kind of set yourself up there. But all right. Yeah. Okay, let's do some more speed run. Let's do teams that didn't really do much. Yeah. Did Portland do anything? Portland didn't really do anything. They traded for Denny Avdia.
That's pretty good.
That was a pretty good trade. And then they
drafted Donovan Clingan.
Actually, this is a pretty good offseason.
Yeah, they're pretty good. B, A?
I give it a B.
B? Yeah. Portland Trailblazers will give you a B. Let's go.
I don't think that pick, like, I love Bub, but like, Clingan is just obviously going to be one of the best players from this draft, even if I wasn't crazy high on his upside.
No trades, but from the Memphis Grizzlies, but they did draft the king in the king in the North, our savior. I want to give the Memphis Grizzlies
just for drafting Edie at 9.
Drafting Edie at 9. Let's go.
I feel like we can't give him an A. Okay, fuck it. Let's just give him an A.
Let's go. Yes.
Edie obviously going to be the best player from this draft.
Yes.
And more importantly to you, they didn't trade Marcus Smart, as D-Bronx points out in the comments there. So, so we'll at least get to see a year of those two together.
Yeah, Mateo had a good point on Portland. They did trade Malcolm Brogdon, which will make them better.
Well, they might not want to be better next year. I think they want to tank for one more year, but they do have Chauncey Billups as their coach, so he'll hold them back enough. Also,
Rockets didn't do anything, right?
I want to do a quick challenge trade for you.
Okay.
I unironically think Portland should do this trade. DeAndre Ayton for Brandon Ingram.
Oh, yeah.
Would the Pelicans do that? Because
Who
bigs?
did they get? Didn't they get a big? Or am I making?
They got DeJounte Murray. They just signed Daniel Tice. Like, Daniel Tice is like a backup at that point.
I would probably want some pay. I would probably want.
They drafted Missy too. I forgot they drafted Missy.
Okay, yeah.
But
he probably shouldn't start for you though.
They have two backup bigs now.
I'd probably do that, like Ayton and like 2 not our own firsts for Ingram.
Okay, so let's talk about the Pelicans.
But here's the thing: is there's a contract though. Maybe one. But
here's the deal: Ayton only has 2 years left on his deal.
That's true.
And everyone will say, "Well, the Blazers aren't going to trade for. They have Jeremy Grant." Like, Here's my thing. The Blazers are going to suck no matter what they do next year. Scoot is just so far away from being a high impact player. Yeah. Sharp is probably far away from that too. Clingan will make their defense at least respectable, I think. My whole thing with this, though, is why wouldn't Portland do that just as an asset play? If Brandon Ingram goes there and he balls out, you can trade him. He'll have value at the deadline, even as an expiring. I think you could get a first-round pick back for him.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't hate that idea. And, I don't know, maybe he goes there and he's awesome and he fits in and it works out great and they move Jeremy Grant in another trade and he could just fill in that role on the team. I kind of would just do that if I'm Portland. I'm not paying Brandon Ingram, but, I don't want to pay DeAndre Ayton either. I just drafted Donovan Clingan. What purpose does DeAndre Ayton have there now is my thing. And Ayton has way more value to, I know Ayton's been kind of up and down, more recently very down. But on a team with Zion, with a lot of shooting and creation around him, I could see that working out. I could see him kind of figuring something out with the Pelicans. And my thing with the Pelicans is Brandon Ingram and DeJounte Murray is just such a redundant fit. Yeah. It's such a bad fit. And also I do think that it's being I know that people that want to trade for Walker Kessler that are fans of the team, but I don't think he's good enough to be a starting center. When you consider think about all the best teams in the West right now, okay? Minnesota is massive on the front line with Cat and Gobert. You have Jokic in Denver, obviously. You have basically all of these teams. The Grizzlies just got Edie. They're massive now. I think that there might be a serious size difference between them and these other teams if they don't get and Ayton at a minimum. I know he doesn't always play big, but Ayton at a minimum at least gives you some interior presence, I guess.
And he doesn't he actually doesn't want to be totally around the rim on offense. He kind of does want to be a shooter.
Yeah, all this just comes back to Ayton just kind of sucks.
He does just kind of suck, but he's not the worst front court partner for Zion. Because he doesn't need to be under the rim. He wants to be. He wants to do that. A little bit. He wants to cook a little from outside. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, look, at a minimum, it would make sense just trading him. A 1-for-1 swap just balances out those rosters a little bit more to me in my brain, because I just think the Pelicans are making a mistake blocking their wings again.
Yes,
they're gonna block Herb and Trey from playing the minutes that they should, and I don't know. I think that they need to make a move to exchange Ingram into a big in some way.
I don't want to rank them, the Pelicans. I think they're still incomplete. I still have no idea what they're doing. I haven't loved it so far, but I feel it's hard to rank them.
Okay, so what have they done so far this offseason? They traded for DeJounte Murray, which we already talked about, which I'm kind of leaning towards liking that trade more for the Hawks than I like it for the Pelicans, only because they still have fucking Brandon Ingram.
That's the thing. And we don't know what that's going to look like. The Brandon Ingram is the last really big piece of off-season, because Lowry Markkanen probably won't get traded at this point. Brandon Ingram almost kind of has to get traded. And
nobody wants him because he wants a max, and no one's going to max him.
Yes. So,
but also, I kind of think that now that you have DeJounte in, we just talked about DeJounte leaving the Hawks might be addition for subtraction for that team. Brandon Ingram leaving the Pelicans will be addition for subtraction for that team. I just think that it's probably time to move on, even if you're selling at a relatively low point. We just saw this with Paul George. Did we not literally just discuss this with Paul George? Where a year from now, someone could just offer Brandon Ingram money in free agency, and then you're oh, great, we lost Brandon Ingram for nothing because we didn't want to lose a trade or whatever. Anyway. Apparently, is this true that Ingram turned down a max extension last offseason because he thought he would make All-NBA and be Supermax eligible?
I think so, yeah.
That's actually fucking hilarious bag fumble. I mean, look, all these guys make so much money. That's what they said in the Hoop Collective. Wow. Brandon Ingram's never made All-NBA. Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, especially when you make as much money as Brandon Ingram, you can't really worry too much about that because you're still going to make like a ton of money in your career. But I do just want to point out here that because people have been talking about this with the Caleb Martin thing. They talked about the biggest bag fumbles on the Hoop Collective this week, and Caleb Martin was one of them. But we were comparing it to the other big bag fumbles, like the Dennis Schroeder thing a few years ago.
That was what I was just going to say. Dennis Schroeder was the one I always think of.
Wasn't that, if chat can correct me if I'm wrong here, but wasn't that 4 years, $88 million?
I think so, because I think it was $20 million a year. Yeah.
So, and then he's never made more than like $11 million a year since. It was 5/100? No.
That's really
someone find the exact number. Because I need to know, because that was an insane bag fumble.
Nerlens Noel's a good one too. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But
484 was the extension for Schroeder that he turned down. And then he took a $5.9 million exception later from the Celtics. And then he signed like a 2-year, $22 million deal. So he has signed. So he's basically made, he hasn't even made half. I mean, he's made like a fourth of that back almost. Like, okay, a little bit more than that. He's made like a third of that in the year since. Because the Caleb Martin bag fumble looks bad now. But my thing with that is like, he'll probably be pretty decent for the Sixers and be able to get one more mini payday. And then on the whole, he turned down 565. And then he ended up signing for like a scam deal with the Sixers for like, I think it's like 327 or whatever, for the years that are guaranteed. And then he can opt out in the last year. But the bag fumble from Schroeder is just an all-time horrible decision from a player that ended up betting on himself and couldn't have been worse. Only Jonte Porter had it worse than Dennis Schroeder. Who can someone find the Nerlens Noel clip for me? I need to know how much he turned down. I think it was like 448 Nerlens Noel turned down, and then he made like $20 million for the rest of his career.
I think it was like $16 million a year, whatever it was. So yeah,
he sued Rich Paul over telling him to turn it down. Remember?
Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah.
That was hilarious. Fucking amazing. Oh God. If anyone could find the Nerlens Noel money, I would appreciate that. But all right, let's move on to let's do the Magic because they got.
But we're at the halfway. We're at exactly the halfway point right now. By the way,
let's go. 2 hours in.
Yep.
So the Magic, they got KCP.
Yep.
They pretty much ran it back. They drafted your guy Tristan da Silva.
They maxed Franz, or close to maxed Franz.
Yeah. Oh, what did you think of the Franz max?
I got a little sinking feeling in my stomach. It will probably be fine. It's a lot of money for a guy when I know they're going to max Paolo. That's a lot of money to give to two guys who I think do have some pretty serious fit issues.
Yeah.
Franz is 6'10". He's a guy who's got a lot of different NBA skills. Those guys, generally, it's not that bad to max a guy who can do a lot of that stuff, even if the shooting, stays at like 33, 34%. I don't think it will. But I'm concerned about what they do with, like, I think it's going to be hard for them to pick between Paolo and Franz, and I think they're going to have a hard time making those guys.
I don't think they're going to. I think that I'm going the opposite direction. I've come around to I actually think the Franz contract is being completely overblown. I think it's a no-brainer max to me. The more I've thought about it, the more I'm like, we have seen time and time again, two-way forwards in the playoffs are so important. And I know that Franz had a bad shooting year, and I don't expect that to last. And if it does, then I could be wrong here. But I just want to build in the fact that two-way wings that are 6'9", 6'10", athletic, very good defender, can create. He shot 58% from two this year. Like,
that's pretty good. Yeah.
If he just has an average shooting year, like his normal shooting from a few years ago, if he just averages that out a little bit more, then he would have been like fringe all NBA. Like, and I expect the shot to regress a little bit. So I kind of think that for a guy who's still 22, 23, like I kind of think that he's just going to keep getting better. He's shown that he gets better at everything except for shooting so far. And I think the shooting will be fine. I don't think he's ever going to be a great shooter, but I think that he'll be like an average shooter at some point. And
yeah,
if that is the case, it's impossible to acquire these guys. And I think I'm fine with maxing it
true.
On the first max contract. If he's still the same player in 4 years and they're giving him the second max contract, that's where I would be like, okay, this is getting a little bit ridiculous. But to give him the first rookie max contract, it seems insane now, but all of those tweets from Woj and Shams that come out, those max numbers that they can reach are only if they make all NBA. So like if Franz makes all NBA, the Magic won't have a problem paying that. They'll be like, okay, you made all NBA. And the Franz Paulo thing is like, I actually think that they're doing a disservice to Franz and Paulo by building the wrong way around them. I think that their fit's fine. Like, I don't think it's any worse than where Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were at a few years ago, to be honest with you. I think that the way that they have built around them doesn't make any sense to me. They don't have any help with creation. The Celtics always had help for the Jays with creation. Like,
not according to Bill Simmons.
I mean, they had Al Horford, they had Kyrie at some point, they had Kemba.
They needed a point guard to set it up, though.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And Marcus Smart was not that point guard.
Yeah. Gotcha, yeah. I was going to say, they always had multiple guys who can handle the ball and survive on defense, and most of them could space off the ball, too. And
the Magic just need shooting. Honestly, it's just shooting.
And I think KCP will help in that regard. I don't know how much of an upgrade. I don't think he makes their offense any better. I think he makes their defense pretty frightening. Like to have KCP, Suggs, Franz Paulo, and then whatever centers they have out there. That's a pretty good fucking starting five defensively.
I think they're going to be top 3 in the East this year.
It's definitely possible. I mean, I think all it takes is just a slight shot regression from Franz and Paulo taking that next step to be like a little bit more efficient and not quite as like like crazy heavily dependent on the mid range and just kind of not a super efficient scorer. But I think if he takes that next step, which I expect him to take, then I do think that this ends up working out for them in the long run. But I think it's a B off season for me.
Who did they draft? Did they draft anyone?
They drafted your guy Tristan Da Silva.
Oh, yeah. At 17, right?
In that case.
I think, BA. You could talk me into A. I'm not kidding.
Franz extension KCP,
Well, no.
Tristan
I like
Da Silva,
I really like the KCP thing. I think the Franz thing is like fine. I'm just acknowledging that there is you're causing you're gonna have to address this at some point with the Paulo. And you're probably right. You probably just move this stuff around the team, but like the Franz Paulo fit is not the best. Like you do kind of need to use the rest of your team
need to get better at shooting
that
too. Like in addition to not having shooting around them, they both need to improve as shooters. I think we agree on that.
You weren't gonna, it would have been good to get Franz to take less than the max, but like, who cares? Like it's fine. It'll be a good contract. Like you said, it's the second, if he still isn't improved on the second max, you worry about it then. Yeah.
People have pointed this out to me too. They don't have these teams that have cap space. They couldn't do the Tyrese Maxey thing where they wait a year because all of the top picks like Franz, Cade, all those guys, their cap holds are so large because they were top picks in the draft. Maxey was a once in a lifetime thing because he was an all-star that was picked at 21. Like that's so rare. The only other team that really has a similar thing going right now is Şengün on the Rockets. So that's the only other team that could afford to wait to extend him and then do it next year. Yeah. Suggs and Franz caps hold would combine to be 50 million. It would just never be workable, as Mateo points out in the comments. But yeah, also another thing that Mateo pointed out to me, it might have been Mateo or Vagberg, one of the Magic people that we talked to, that they now have like a plethora of centers. And we always talk about how easy it is to get a center, but like there are a few teams that just don't have centers right now. Like the Pelicans don't have a center really. The Knicks need a backup center. And if that is the case, then I think that they are going to have to figure out a way to acquire that. And now they have 3 rotational centers in Mo Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., and they brought back Goga Bitadze. And they can trade one of those guys and get back real value at the deadline if they choose to go in that direction too. So that was kind of a savvy move by them. And also, Isaac doesn't play the 5. He's more of a 4, but like in theory, he could play some small ball 5 as well. So they're kind of stacked in the front court in a weird way that I did not expect. But all right, let's get on to the. I just dropped the Miami Heat in F tier. They're screwed. I like the Khalil Ware pick, actually. I do want to point that out. I think he's going to be good. He destroyed in Summer League, but yeah, they kind of really have to know where to go. The Caleb Martin thing, look, yes, they had no choice but to get like Caleb Martin had to walk once he opted out, and Caleb Martin fucked up, and his agent fucked up on that. But as Ethan in our Discord has pointed out to me multiple times, they would have never been in this situation up near the second apron if they just had not done the Rozier trade or not extended Hero. So I just, we're at the point of the season where people are like, oh, our best offseason acquisition was Terry Rozier's trade deadline. Wait, look out for a full season of that. And I'm like, yeah, you're cooked. The Khalil Ware pick was great. Everything else they did just kind of sucked. They didn't really do anything. But yeah.
I agree with you. Rest in piss bozos. Jimmy Butler, have fun being bad on the Lakers next year.
Does he get traded before the deadline, or does he just expire?
Plays it out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, all right, we can go. Where do we land on the Pelicans?
I kind of want to do incomplete. I mean, we can put them in.
We'll put them in C for incomplete
tier now. Yeah, like
I kind of don't.
It's kind of been bad. It's been bad. Honestly, it's been a little bit bad. Maybe we put them in D tier as a placeholder with the caveat.
Sure.
Yeah.
If they make moves later, they can move their way up. But I don't really like their offseason.
Yeah.
So far at least. I actually think DeJounte will be good for them if they can make other moves that make the team make more sense. But for right now, I don't.
They need Brandon Ingram out of there, I think.
Yeah.
And I think their team will make a lot more sense once they can do the Brandon Ingram trade.
Yep.
So
okay, Spurs. They kind of jumped. They signed Chris Paul. They took Stephen Castle with the 4th pick. They took Harrison Barnes and the swap in. I've seen some ludicrous shit about them making the playoffs next year. That team still sucks. I'm sorry. That team still does not have enough
really
good
bad.
NBA players.
Wemby's kind of
Wemby's amazing, undeniably. The Western Conference,
I'm trying to talk myself.
Too good.
Is Wemby enough him? Because here's the thing: the Warriors. We'll get to the Warriors. The Warriors and Lakers are like not good. The Suns are like not good. Like are like the? I don't think it's ludicrous to ask like are the Spurs in the Kings tier? You know, I don't think that's ludicrous.
I think they have 2 good players.
Right, but one of them is really good. One of them could be like the 3rd best player in the NBA next year.
They're not going to be good. I'm telling you.
Probably, but I'm not comfortable betting my life on that. I guess is what
Harrison
I'm saying.
Barnes is washed. Chris Paul is washed. Jeremy Sohan sucks.
Correct.
Devin
Vassell is insanely overrated. Also, by the way, that's like Keldon Johnson's not good. Look, you're not getting an argument from me that their team sucks. Wemby is just like you can get a lot done with just one good player. Look at the Bucks last year.
I mean, it would have to be Jokic 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whenever the whole team was dead and he just carried them to like 47 wins or whatever. But I will say this much. They did get a lot of, like, they got a swap in the Harrison part. They just keep adding those swaps. They just keep getting these little swaps here and there when Wemby's going to be a little bit older, and like they're gearing themselves up to make a push in the chips move. A lot of people want them to trade for Lowry Markkanen. I don't think they should trade for Lowry Markkanen.
Not now. Not at this point.
It's going to cost way too much. And like you have time.
Yeah.
You have time. Like, you have Wemby. Now, look, I think he's good enough that you could start competing next year. If you wanted to push in the chips, I'd be fine with it. But, like, I think that you have so much time that you can assess what this team looks like when you realize, when guys are in more defined roles, with Chris Paul running a little bit more offense, with whoever you have on the team. At a minimum, they use their cap space to get and their draft pick to get far out picks, and they're going to be set up nicely moving forward. I'd give their offseason for acquiring talent. I'd give their offseason a D. For what I think they're going to be in the future, I'd give their offseason a B or an A.
I don't know if I would give them an A. I think it's a C. I think it's a C offseason. They did fine. I get it. I don't think they did great. So
I like Rob Dillingham. There's also a chance that Rob Dillingham isn't an NBA player.
That's totally true.
And I just aesthetically, I think Rob has the funnest game. I think he is one of the most talented players in the NBA. I'm sorry, one of the most talented players in the draft. But there's also a possibility he's just 165 pounds and he can't make it in the NBA. And they got a pick and a swap unprotected like 7 years out. Like, there's potential in a bad draft to get that from a team, even if the Wolves are still good in years. There's a chance. There's a chance that could turn out to be really good.
I don't like trading that pick with Jacoby Walter on the board.
Let's go.
Walter
so you want to give the
Bros,
Raptors an A then? Are we going Raptors?
Walter Bros, are you with me? Crickets. Nobody likes the Walter bug. Let's go. Can we give the Raptors an F? That quickly extension is a dog shit. I'm sorry. I feel very strongly about that. That sucks.
Yeah. The Raptors had in my opinion, I think the worst offseason that has not been talked about at all.
They suck. What are they gonna do?
Dude, okay.
They suck.
All right. I want to talk about how bad this offseason is, but I also want to just do little tiny sliver of hope for them.
Kelly,
the league. Ochai Agbaji.
Yes.
People forget quickly. Yes. Ochai Agbaji.
Save Kelly Olynyk. Save Kelly Olynyk.
I know everyone hates the Bulls. I think if the Raptors season goes the way I think it does, I think we really have to talk about them being the worst front office in the NBA now.
They suck. They fucking blew it. They have RJ Barrett on their fucking team, dude. Like, what is happening? Why did they give that quickly extension? Is terrible, dude. It's so bad.
It's a lot of money for the $35 million a year flat across 5 years. Every year, $35 million.
Holy fuck, that's so gross. Like, I'm not sure he's a starter.
So
I'm not sure he's a starter.
I said
he might be like a good sixth man. Might be like what his NBA future is.
It's definitely when they traded for Quickly. I like the idea of putting him with that core, but I thought they were going to get him back for like $20 million a year. I thought it was going to be like what Malik Monk got, or like maybe a little bit more than that just to keep him happy. But like they have Quickly, so they are paying Scotty Barnes, Quickly, and RJ Barrett how much money next year?
I think it's 100, right?
It's over 100 million the following year.
Oh my god, dude.
Here's the
Siri, who was the manager for Quickly, and was it Bartlestein?
He's a clutch guy, isn't he?
Oh, is he a Rich Paul guy? Yeah. Shout out to Rich Paul. That's good work. That's great work. Sorry, Nerlens Noel.
Piss said Raptors fans calling their core BBQ is so funny because their team is cooked.
Yeah, let's go.
I'm going to be honest. I thought the Jacoby Walter pick was terrible. I thought the Quickly extension was insane. I thought Scotty Barnes getting a max is whatever to me. I just think I would have preferred to give him a max if I already had a better player than him. But I really don't think that's that bad. Like, I think it has potential to age poorly, but like the Raptors were always going to max him. And then the other, like, who else is on their team? Are you a big Jamal Shed guy? Houston. They got him in the second round.
God. Do they still have Javon Freeman?
Liberty, he's still
Liberty?
around.
Yeah.
Chris Boucher still on their team. They did get Mogbo. They did get Jakob Poeltl still around. Man, this team is just fucking depressing.
Ass, dude. They signed it. Isn't Jakob Poeltl making $20 million a year?
Yeah, he makes a lot of money. Hold on. He's making like 18 or 19 million. I know we've relived the Jakob Poeltl trade like 100 times. I just remember both of us on Slotfest 2023 when that trade happened, being like, "What the fuck is this?"
You doing?
And it has aged worse than we could have ever imagined. They gave up a top 10 pick for Jakob Poeltl that the Spurs didn't even use. They actually turned around and they turned that into basically 2 more first-round picks. But I just get a real kick out of them trading for Jakob Poeltl. When, like, who is giving Jakob Poeltl more than a fucking MLE deal?
Oh my God, dude.
Ugh.
I get like.
I also think Jakob Poeltl is so overrated by nerds. It drives me insane, dude. What does he do? I'm sorry. Oh, he sets screens and protects the rim. Cool. 90% of centers in the NBA do that.
Dude, and like the thing is, like, the Pacers are probably going to be good for a while. So, like, the Pascal, you didn't even get like great picks back.
Yeah.
In the Pascal deal, like,
yeah,
that sucks, man. That sucks. They're
Hold
so
on.
bad.
One of the picks they traded for Kelly Olynyk and Ochai Agbaji, and then that pick actually ended up being Isaiah Collier, who's got a chance to be pretty decent.
God. Oh my God. Is that true?
Yeah, I thought they were going to take Isaiah Collier on draft night, and I was like, look, I'm like kind of split on what Isaiah Collier could be, but like that's the kind of swing they should be taking.
Yes, absolutely.
And then they took Jacoby, and like the once again, the sliver of hope thing I want to say for the Raptors here is that the league is going to be so bad so good next year that they might still be really bad.
They are still going to be really bad.
But that's the thing.
Top 5 bad team.
But they could add, like, if they get lottery luck and they add a core piece, that makes a few of these things a little bit easier to stomach. Like,
yes,
if Quickly is your 4th best player, if Barnes is your 2nd best player, if RJ Barrett decides to retire from basketball.
Yeah. If they get flagged, yeah, right. There we go. It took me a second to catch up there, because I wanted to make my Cooper flag point. The prince, the king of the North, returns. The prince of Newport, Maine, the best American NBA player, is playing in Toronto next year.
Oh,
that's a lot better.
Yeah, sure. If they get Cooper flag or they get one of these guys, sure. That's the silver lining. But there's also a chance that, like Ethan points out in the comments, there's also a chance that they could just be like too good. They could be in the Jazz situation where they accidentally end up with like the 11th pick.
I don't think that's going to be a problem.
I don't think it will be either. Yeah. I
think this team is turbo ass.
They stole Bruce Brown too. They picked up Bruce Brown's option.
Oh my God.
They're holding him hostage in the country.
They might be in the tax.
No, they're not in the tax. I think they got out of the tax. They're close though. Remember last year when they were in the tax and we were like, how is this possible? No, it was 2 years ago when they traded for the Jakob Poeltl trade, put them into the tax, I believe.
Wait, they're $5 million out of the tax and they haven't re-signed Gary Trent Jr. yet.
Well, he's gone. I don't even care about Gary Trent Jr. I think that he's another guy that, like, I don't know. But the way people talk about Gary Trent Jr., I'm like, what?
He's a rotation player. He is their 3rd best player.
No, he's not. Jakob Poeltl's better than Gary Trent Jr. stinks.
No,
Jakob
Poeltl stinks.
All right.
Anyway,
Bruce Brown's better than fucking Gary Trent Jr.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, that's true. That is true. I'll give you
that. But it's very funny because that's Simon's putting it up perfectly. Gary Trent Jr. has a rep for being a good defender, and he's a terrible defender. He's also like he's a high volume 3-point shooter, but he's not like Buddy Hield. Like he's a decent 3-point shooter.
Okay. Here's what I'll say.
Okay, hold on. Last thing. If he was the 5th guy on the Bucks, I would be like, okay, I can see it. But like on most teams, Gary Trent Jr. just doesn't matter at all to me. He just kind of looks athletic, so everyone just assumes that he's like super. Like I don't know, he's just a guy to me.
So we talk a lot about like Bill brings this up a lot about we just talk about Darius Garland about how like Darius Garland was playing under duress last year. Like he broke his face halfway through the season. Like that's a really hard injury to come back from, and we don't account for like the mental strain of guys like this. Gary Trent Jr. is a guy with Junior in his name, and the Toronto Raptors let an alleged person sit courtside who targets juniors.
Wait, what? I was like, so where's this going?
No.
It's an ambassador for the team.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you let an ambassador for the team be someone
I get it. I understand.
Who targets juniors,
yes.
That's a hard thing for Gary Trent.
I get it. I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Allegedly. Thank you for clearing that up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Wop, 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 wop. I'm gonna fuck him up.
So that was good.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gary Trent Jr. is going to go somewhere next year, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, he's not that guy." Although I will say, I think that he's good if he goes to the Bucks on a scam contract. Let's talk about the Bucks for a second because the Bucks, I hated their draft.
Yeah, it's like.
Oh no, Tyler Smith in the second round was fine, but like the AJ Johnson pick just makes no fucking sense. They're the worst drafting team in the NBA by a wide margin at this point.
Correct.
They have not drafted an NBA player in 6 years.
It's insane.
And they never gave either of the two guys that they hit on second contracts, Brogdon and Dante, even if that ended up working out for them. This is the thing. I want to just talk about it a little bit because people are like, I keep saying like the Bucks have Giannis. They'll be fine in the regular season. Like they might even be competitive. Like they might even be like a sneaky, like, oh, you don't want to catch them in the playoffs. But to keep a guy like Giannis happy and to keep like that level of superstar, like content, to never hit on draft picks and then also to never, ever attempt to get younger in trades is like, it's just unsustainable. Like they're all the way in now. And I actually like their veteran minimum signings. I talked about I like DeLon Wright and Taurean Prince as like flyers on the vet min. Like I think they're rotation players. And I know DeLon Wright can stay on the court in the playoffs. I think he'll be good for them. But I also am like, does it really move the need? Does it matter is the thing. And I don't really think it matters, but also like, what else could they do? That's the problem that they have right now. They're in the second apron. They can't even aggregate salary, Sam. They can't even trade Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton together. Like I
know. Yeah, they're hard capped at the apron. Like they're fucked. They're like low key. They have to thank their lucky stars. That's again why I think the Knicks kind of shot their wad early. I'm not sure Giannis is not going to be available in like a year from now. Yes. They're fucked. They're turbo fucked.
What can they do to get younger to keep him around? Because they have to get younger. Brook Lopez is 37 next playoffs.
First of all, when you're asking why is a guy around, you don't want to get younger. Second drink. Second.
Let's go.
Okay. But they're fucked though. They gave up all they're just now starting to pay off the Drew Holiday trade. Just now. They have no pick equity. They have Doc Rivers as coach. All of
they still have talent.
The big move that they want to trade in talent is trading. Who wants 37-year-old Brook Lopez? Come on down. Like it sucks, man. They're in trouble. They're in a lot of trouble. I don't know what they can do. I really don't know what they can do.
Because if they trade Chris Middleton or Brook Lopez, they will get worse. Because those guys just don't have the trade value that they should.
Yes.
Brook because of his age, Middleton because of his availability. But at the same time, how do you keep Giannis around when you're now like Brook is going to retire in like 2 years and like Middleton might just be physically cooked and Dame's also old. Dame's 33. Like, I just don't know where they go. Like them not being able to hit on one draft pick for like 6 years is just like how to run a guy out of town, basically.
Can I say this? I think their offseason was a C because, like, I think they did fine with their vet.
They had nothing to do. Yeah.
They had nothing to do. They'd just been fucked.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it has nothing to do. It's previous moves that set them up for this.
Yeah, I guess to be fair though, we did put the Clippers in F tier, and it was like kind of a similar thing.
I didn't think that the Clippers should be in F tier. I think
so.
that
Let's put them in D tier. Fine, let's put them in D tier.
Well, do you want to put both of them in D tier? Or you put one in
Yeah.
D tier, one in C tier.
We can put the Bucks in D tier too. Yeah, because they did fuck up that pick, their draft pick, which is one of the only things they did. So
yeah. All right, I like the DeLon Wright and Taurean Prince moves as regular season moves too. But yeah, I don't know if it matters.
Yeah, we get to put the Bucks in.
All right, we'll put the Bucks in C.
Yeah,
It's fine.
Yeah, fine.
They don't really have anything to. Like, I don't know what they can do. Like, there just isn't a move to make. All right, let's move on. We have the Warriors. I actually like the Warriors off season.
Warriors actually did all right for themselves.
I know that, like, I don't really think that I think they get a B. Like,
I agree with you. Yeah,
like I think Clay's washed. I think they got Melton.
Yeah,
they got. I mean, Buddy's mid, but like Buddy will be fine for them in the regular season.
Yeah,
Kyle Anderson's a good upgrade.
Yeah, Kyle Anderson's fine. Like,
I think that they're fine.
Yeah,
I
don't think losing Clay is that bad. To be honest.
Chris Paul's also washed too, so like, who cares? Like,
who cares? Yeah,
I don't know.
They can play their young guys. They got rid of these shitty vets and can play some of their. They actually have some decent young guys. They have Pods. They have Kuminga. They have like.
They did better than they did a better version of what the Bucks did. The Bucks got two of the better veterans minimum guys. The Warriors got a few of the better mid-level exception-y guys.
Yeah.
So that's why I would put them in B, because it's just
they did fine. Yeah.
They did fine, and like their window's closed, guys. Like,
it's fine.
I think I would have given them if they trade Kuminga and 4 first-round pick and Pods and 4 first-round picks for Lowry Market, and I'll put them in the D tier.
Yeah,
because I think that's a massive mistake. Personally, I think that they should just
they're
realize where you're at right now. Take it slow, okay?
Yeah. They blew it with the Steph Curry. They should probably think about trading Steph if they really want to like.
They're never going to
do the rebuild, but they're not going to do that. So
they're never trading Steph. Yeah. So all right. Timberwolves. What did they do? They just traded for. They got Joe Ingles, and they traded for Rob Dillingham, and they took Terrence Shannon Jr. That was their whole offseason.
See.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like the swing on Rob. It's a risk,
I do too.
Though.
I don't. It's a risk.
It's a risk.
Yeah,
but this is kind of where you're at.
Right? Oh, they got PJ Dozier. Sorry.
Oh, should we bump him up to D for PJ Dozier?
No.
Look, for where they're at, I like it, but I think putting them perfectly in C, because that has A tier upside and it has F tier downside.
Yeah.
So I think that is the only move that they made that matters this offseason. Yeah. And if that move works out for them, they could skyrocket.
Yeah.
And they could also, it could also be Rob is just not big enough to play in the NBA, and we'll see. He's going to cook at Summer League, though. Yeah. I'm excited for that.
Conley extension, that it's like the Al Horford one from the Celtics did.
They did that during the regular season, though. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, that wasn't an offseason move. But yeah,
fine. Yeah. Okay. I think it's fine. I think they did fine. You know, I don't hate what they did. I don't dislike what they did. You know, like they did what the Kings did, but didn't like lock themselves into it. They just have younger players, you know, and better players. So like,
there's potential that Rob is that guy, and then they turn out to be really good with a great backcourt mate for in the future.
So this is kind of an incomplete, but can I pitch you on the Cavs having an A off season?
Sure. They got Donovan Mitchell back.
That's
really the only thing that matters for them.
Yeah, like.
Although
on them.
I didn't have they have no wings, and that team doesn't make sense to me.
They're gonna make it. It's an incomplete.
I love Jalen Tyson though. I did like him. Yeah, that's a great pick.
I think they did pretty good. Like they still have to decide with like Garland and Jared Allen, and like it's incomplete right now. I think they're gonna do something with that stuff, but like
let's put him B.
Okay, let's put him B tier. Yeah, sure.
Because I think getting Mitchell back is the only thing that actually tangibly matters. But I also think that, like, I mean, we've said time and time again, like, you can't just go into the playoffs and be like, Max Strus is our best wing, because he's not even.
I don't think they will, though. I think they're going to trade Garland, like, or Allen for wing depth, and you know.
I mean, that trade that we had for them before when Garland was still good, it was like Garland for Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith would make them a real problem, but the Nets ain't doing that anymore.
Let me just say this. If they roll this team back next offseason, I would probably put them more in C tier. Maybe. Yeah. Like, I think they do need to do something, but getting Mitchell back was really good, though. I'm sorry. Like, that, B tier is fine. B tier is fine. They did really good getting Mitchell back. Yeah. So,
yeah. All right. So, last few here, we have the Lakers didn't do anything. By the way, once again, don't overreact to Summer League. Dalton Connect looks absolutely terrible on defense, dude. Dude, he cannot stay in front of anyone in Summer League, and I'm like, this could be rough.
So they drafted Dalton and Bronny.
They haven't done anything else. What else have they done?
Didn't they extended LeBron?
Yeah, LeBron and they hired JJ Redick.
D-tier just for that.
I don't think they had a good offseason. I think they had a bad one.
I think D.
But I also am like, I wouldn't make panic moves. I don't think this team is good. Like, I don't think this team is good enough to really worry about that.
It's kind of the same thing as the Clippers and the Bucks. Like,
yeah,
it is what it is. Like,
yeah. Well, okay. So, Pacers just extended Siakam, signed James Wiseman on a vet minimum.
Let's go.
Hear me out. James Wiseman stinks. I actually kind of like that, though. Here's why. James Wiseman sucks. But what if he doesn't?
There we go.
It's a vet minimum deal. Who cares?
That is such a bill.
No, this is why Kevin Pritchard is a good GM, and this is why Troy Weaver is a bad GM. Because Kevin Pritchard was like, who cares? If he sucks, who gives a fuck? We got him for the veterans minimum. We didn't give up value to get him. We're not paying him $12 million a year. Like, we're literally getting him, and if he's bad, we can cut him. It's non-guaranteed on the second year.
Right.
It's a 2-year veterans minimum. If he has any talent left in there, we'll get it in him, get it out of him, because we have a perfect offensive context for someone like him. And yeah, maybe he has maybe he could make himself into a backup. And that's fine on the vet minimum. Like, I actually don't hate that move. They also they didn't have many picks in this draft, but they got Johnny Furphy in the second round, who probably should have been a first round guy. Like, I kind of think that they didn't do much. They just extended Siakam. They didn't make any big trades. They already made their move at the deadline. Like, yeah, I think they had a good offseason. I think that they're just headed in the right direction. I'll give them a B. Yeah. The Suns. What do the Suns even have?
Dude, dog, didn't they give fucking what's his name a contract? Royce O'Neal.
Yeah, that Royce O'Neal contract sucks.
Oh my god, dude!
But someone did point out they did pay overpay Obi Toppin a little bit. I didn't love that, but also I don't really care. Obi's like probably good for the vibes and is a fine regular season player.
Oh, we're back on the Pacers.
Yeah,
sorry.
The Pacers, but yeah.
Okay.
The Suns. You're like, Obi Toppin's on the Suns?
Yeah, I was like, wait, I kind of like that for them.
Yeah. Like,
wait,
he played well against the Celtics in the playoffs on offense. So
yeah,
Sam thinks he's amazing. So the Suns drafted Ryan Dunn and the big from Marquette that I'm forgetting his name right now.
Yeah, I thought they got Kevin McCullough, which I was really gonna like, but
they got Monte Morris. They got Oso.
Yeah.
They also got Monte Morris on the veterans minimum. That Royce O'Neal contract is bad, but they did it so they could have something to trade. But good luck trading that contract.
With what? With what?
That's a
God
good point.
Damn it! They're so fucked, dude. Like, oh my god.
Every time we talk about the Suns, this is what it turns into.
I'm losing my mind. They were literally fucking hiring a salary cap manager on fucking Glassdoor or whatever it was. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Apparently that was real. I thought that was like a bit someone was doing. That was real.
The person came in and was like, it's literally Donald Glover, the CD community coming in.
Yeah.
Everything. This is your cap sheet? They knew what they were getting themselves into, dude.
Dog, they literally hired someone who's just like been listening to Dunked On podcast, like some like third tier Dunked On Patreon subscriber is running their books right now.
Yeah.
And they found that man dead this morning because he realized what's going on. Like,
so just want to point out.
The thing about this is they did their damage again before this actual offseason, but the Royce O'Neal contracts, I think they're D tier, by the way.
Okay, we'll put them in D tier.
Yeah.
I mean, they just had nothing they could do.
Like the Royce O'Neal contract is bad.
But they somehow made it worse. I don't know.
I don't know. That sucks, man. I can't.
You get to like an existential crisis every time we talk.
I can't think about it. It makes me anxious. Like talking about the Suns feels like watching Uncut Gems. Like there's just someone's like fucked up and in too deep, but they keep like tripling down on it. It's like stop.
Someone's gonna shoot.
Yeah, they're gonna get shot in the face at some point. Like it's theoretically, metaphorically.
Metaphorically, yes.
Yes.
Also, I do just want to point out here that it's Kochi just commented another cat contract on the Suns. The Patrick Swin was basketball meme. Another $60 million cap hit.
Another $60 million to sign a barely rotation player.
I don't think people realize that if they don't trade, they're going to have to trade Devin Booker or let Kevin Durant walk for nothing or both in 2 years because of the second apron implications. Because they're fucking themselves for now. They're fucking themselves for later. They're fucked. It's every time I talk about them, I just lose my mind at how bad that is. They might miss the playoffs. Anyway, Jesus Christ. Whew. All right. We have
these last three teams are bumming me out. The Rockets are probably
Rockets are good. I like they drafted Reed. They didn't really do anything
they drafted
else,
Reed. I forgot they drafted Reed.
Yeah. They didn't really do anything else, and I don't think they should really do anything else.
Yeah, that's fine. B tier.
Yeah, B tier is fine for them. Yeah. Because my thing is like the Rockets are in a great position right now. Like they have so many young guys. One of these guys will really pop. And we said a year ago, I was like, when we ranked the front offices like 2 years or a year ago, I remember being like, we put the Rockets in like C or D tier. And I remember being like, if there's one front office here I think can make a jump to A tier, it's the Rockets, because they have so many young guys that have potential that if one of them pops, two of them pop, it makes them look so much better. And I think we had that to an extent this past season with Şengün and then possibly Amen and a few of these other guys.
One more of them needs to pop before they beat the Mickey allegations today.
Yeah.
But Amen's probably a pretty safe bet for that.
And even if it doesn't, like they might just get Devin Booker because the Suns are so fucked.
Yeah. By the way, really funny that we have one A-tier team. It's the Grizzlies purely on the strength of Edey.
Zach Edey, let's go. We're fucking take that data-driven decision makers. We're vibes guys talking over here.
God, if Edey's bad in the regular season, I might have to Bud Dwyer. Like I'm in too deep. Too deep. Yeah.
Okay. So the Pistons and the Wizards are left. I think just for the bit we should do the Pistons first because the Wizards we literally never talk about them.
F again. Fuck! How did they do it? They changed it again!
Hold on. Let's talk about what they did.
They signed Tobias Harris to a $25 million contract. It's over!
They also got Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley.
Ah!
Look, at a minimum, they did put shooting around their young guys.
Did they? It's just Beasley.
Hardaway Jr. shoots, but he also is like gonna try to cook a ton. Yeah, they max Cade. How I don't understand how the Franz contract got so much heat, and the Cade contract was just like, of course.
Well, because the Cade thing is like just the consent manufacturing to like the actual. I think it's fine to be a little skeptical of Franz. That will probably be bad, but the Cade thing is la la land.
I feel bad for Cade because we went through all their transactions, and it really does feel like the no hope thing with the Weaver front office.
Yeah.
But I also I'm like, if you're basing it on production for the first few years in the NBA, which is usually why you pay guys, then like Franz has been way better. And you can't even tell me that it's a context thing. Franz's team was bad 2 years ago when he was on, and he was good as a rookie.
Yes.
He was like legitimately like, who was their second best player?
Imagine Franz on a team that didn't have shooting.
I'm seeing it.
Oh, wait.
Hold on. Also, I just want to point out here that with the Franz going back to his rookie year thing, Jalen Suggs was like the worst player in the NBA as a rookie. Like he's good now, but he was very bad as a rookie.
He was very bad, yes.
And they had like Isaac never played. This was before they got Paulo. Like who was their second best player? Gary Harris? Like they did not have a good team. Like where did that come from? That like you can't ever be good with a bad context. Like I just don't buy that. But I also think that Cade has had a very specifically fucked up context.
Sure. He's also bad. I think it's insane to max contract him. I'm sorry. Like it's insane.
Based on the production, I think they should have obviously just waited this offseason. And I don't think that Cade is good enough to create the context as people are pointing out the context or the comments. I just want to point out here with the Cade thing, last thing. What's the upside unless you get a player that is better than Cade? Because my thing is like they're still so far away from competing that like maybe they can get like Cooper Flagg in the next draft or something or someone else. But like you got to give Dean on draft credit. Before the draft, he literally called this. He said he compared him exactly to Andrew Wiggins. And he said Wiggins was a little bit underwhelming. Cade was better in college than Wiggins, but he's a little bit underwhelming, but he still kept the number one pick like shine. And he all the way up until he got his max contract, no one really doubted it. Oh, he'll get better. He'll be fine. Whatever. And then when he was on the second contract, everyone was like, he's obviously not a max player. And then he had to get traded to a team where the context was better. The Pistons need to figure out a way to make that happen for Cade is my thing. And like, I love Ron, but like, I've always thought that like Ron Holland would be like a second or third guy on a team. Like, I think his ceiling is like probably a little worse Jaylen Brown. And like, if that is the guy, then like, he's not the best player either. I don't know. I just think the Pistons are not in. I don't think that the Pistons did well at all. I don't know if I would give them an F. I would probably bump them to D because I love the Ron pick.
Chad Ron Holland cried, has aura. Cade did not cry, zero aura.
Yeah.
Just pointing that out there. What did Dean think of Ron? Was he hired by a team now, so he doesn't say it anymore?
Yeah, he can't say. Yeah, he does. He doesn't have any public opinions on Ron Holland, but I'll put the Pistons.
Let's call Dean. Let's call Dean.
Yes,
I'm gonna go to Dean. Dean, I'm a single man. I need advice. Also, what's your draft?
Okay, so the Wizards are up. They took Sar and Bub in the draft. Oh, they also took Kayshawn George. So those three guys. They got Valanciunas in a sign-in trade.
What did they trade for? They traded Brogdon to the Denny Avdia trade.
They got the Bub pick and a future, like lesser of 2 picks from the Blazers. That's like a few years out, and Brogdon for Denny Avdia. I think that trade's kind of a mistake personally, but
we disagree about that. We talked about that before, though. So yeah,
I mean it's fine. It's fine. It's a fine for where the Wizards are at right now. It's fine. I don't know. I wouldn't trade good players on great contracts.
Yeah.
Even if people might think it's a overpay.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you this: they won't be good.
No, they're definitely going to be bad.
Yeah, the Nets. Getting Brogdon secured that the Nets won't overtake them as the worst team in the league. I think.
Brogdon is not that bad.
That was clutch. That was huge for them.
I mean,
Brogdon and Poole is like one of the worst things of
God.
all time. Like that sucks, man.
But they're saying that they're letting Tyus Jones walk because they want Bub and Poole to be the backcourt, and I'm like, where does Brogdon fit in here? Because he's gonna.
They might just send him home.
I was like, he's gonna cause shit.
Yeah. Potato, Brockton and Poole are going to make Bub a bad person. Make him evil. They're making Bub evil. No,
protect Bub at all costs.
Protect Bub. I think Bilal, you know what I'm saying? Like, they still have Kispert. I think
I love Bilal, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be good.
I think he's going to be good. I think they have Valanciunas gives them a little bit of a veneer of like a real team where it's not like it's the opposite of the Jazz problem where you have
Their
all these
spacing is going to be
players.
A disaster outside of Kispert.
Bub can shoot. I mean, like he's not. You know,
but
I know his percentages are bad. Like not.
No. Bub has really good touch.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. My whole thing with Bub and that mold of guard is that they rarely, when they're young, catch and shoot guys. They're always like, I'm just gonna cook, and like that's fine. They don't care about being good. It is just funny that like they signed Valanciunas.
He can screen for you though.
He'll screen, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But like Sarr is a shaky shooter. Kuzma is like one of the most overrated shooters in the NBA. Everyone thinks he's a good shooter when he's like always been below average, like on efficiency for his entire career. I
keep forgetting they still have Kuzma on the team. That is kind of bad.
I think they won 2 firsts for him. I'm like, dude, just please get what does Kyle Kuzma have over the league? Get a first for him and move on.
Yeah, I think that's the move. I think they need to kind of take care of that. Because I think if you're playing your young guys, like Jordan Poole, obviously turbo ass, but like you can like Valanciunas is like a fine enough player. What?
Kuzma had the 6th highest usage of the NBA last year.
You know what though? That actually kind of makes sense because who else was going to take shots on that team? I guess
Poole, it's just him and Poole.
Yeah. Like, but that sucks. I don't know. I think they're doing fine. I would say C to B. The thing that's going to make or break this offseason is like, is Sarr. Yeah, exactly. So is Sarr good?
I'm like, we're like, it's so funny because throughout the draft process, you came up on Sarr and I came down on Sarr. Like, it was like, I had Sarr 1, and then by draft night, I had him at like 5, I think. And you were ahead him at like 9, 11 or whatever, and moved him up to 5. Yeah. So that's really going to be the deciding thing for sure. I'm a little worried about Sarr. Offensively.
Yeah, I don't think he's...
But defensively, I think he's going to be awesome.
I don't think he's very good. I would have liked to have seen him go to Atlanta. I think he's in a much worse context here. And
well, also, I think they have 2 former OKC guys in their front office. So I think we knew who liked the athletic guys in OKC. Remember when people were giving Presti shit because he missed on all those picks outside the lottery? Go look at those guys. They're literally all athletes. Like, they're all like... And that clearly was like a big thing. And like, look, those are good swings to take, in my opinion, at the top of the draft. Yeah. Taking an athlete who's like pretty good that can kind of mold into shape usually works out well for you if you take enough swings. And I think Bilal and Sarr are kind of like, we'll see. But they're definitely still question marks. So
yeah.
Also, by the way, they signed Sadiq Bey. I don't know if you saw that.
I have to stand.
Move him up.
Let's go.
Move him up.
That's probably bad for them. No. He's like they need better shoot.
He tore his ACL. He's not even playing next year.
That's right. I keep forgetting that. Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
People were like freaking out. Like, who were they bidding against? And then I was like, they paid him like $6 million a year. And it's like, who cares? In 2 years, that's like almost the veterans minimum. Yeah. He's not good, but like, who cares?
I'd like to see the Wizards go after Kevin Huerter.
That would be. Why don't they just trade Kuzma for? Oh man, the Kings are going to trade for Kuzma. I keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
If they do that, I'm dropping them down to the D tier. By the way,
if they got the Wizards got Kevin Huerter, I'd kind of like that for him.
But isn't he kind of reductive with or redundant with Kispert?
I mean, a little. You just have one of them come off the bench. You know, like they don't play together that much.
We always have one Kevin Huerter on the court. All right.
Yeah.
Let's run down our finals here. We have been going for almost 3 hours.
My sister, when I was texting in the middle of that, it was my sister. She said she was going to FaceTime me with my nephews at 8. And I had to sadly hang up the phone.
You should have told me, dude. God damn.
I was fine. I was like, I'll be done
I'm literally
soon.
breaking up families over here.
Texting me back. It's fine. They see me all the time, little goblins. It's fine.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. You know ball
this is more
American family.
Yeah, I'm gonna yell at my shitty nephew.
Yeah.
Get out of here, asshole. Uncle's got to talk about how bad the Suns are fucked up.
All right. So S tier, we have Sixers, Nets, Thunder. Yeah. A tier, we have the Grizzlies just because of Edie. B tier, we have the Hawks, Celtics, Blazers, Magic, Warriors, Rockets, Pacers, and Cavs.
We're going to put this screenshot on Twitter and everyone's going to just call us nasty names.
Yeah, I love it. Can't wait to see it. C, we have Mavericks, Kings, Spurs, Bucks, Wizards, Timberwolves. D, we have Jazz, Knicks, Hornets, Pelicans, Clippers, Lakers, Pistons, Suns. And then F, we have the Bulls, the Nuggets, the Heat, and the Raptors.
We nailed the F tier. I'll say that.
Yep.
We nailed the F tier.
Let's go. All right. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Let's get out of here.
Is that enough content for you assholes?
I'll probably be back for Summer League streams. So join me for that. Sign up for the Patreon if you have not already. Bye-bye. Take care.
Peace.